Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to Rhonda's lovely Sparks watch party for the our only and first vice presidential debate between Kamala Harris and JD Vance. And we are going to have a great party tonight. We talk about great politics. We speak on how we feel. And we have just a great show coming up for everyone. I'm excited about this vice presidential debate. I've had this scheduled on my live for a very long time. Again, welcome. And I'm Rhonda, and I'm from Texas. That's right. We're working on turning Texas blue. You all subscribe, smash that like, share with your friends, even though I know a couple of you don't want to share because you want to be in here, by yourself and you don't want to be bothered with your friends. I get it. It's probably the world's best kept secret. You can call my channel that. The world's best kept secret is Rhonda's lovely sparks. Thank y'all for being here. My kitty cat Nippy is right here. I'm giving her a pat. You'll see her tail in a minute. Hello, Nippy. And go to the community tab, and you will definitely see where I posted Martha and Nippy. Asia Robertson, hello, Asia. Hello. My NFL sister star, she's made it here. I'm so excited. Thank you for being here. Hubby is here. Hubby, say hi.
Hey.
You go, hey. Did you say hey? Did you say it like that?
Hey.
You go, hey. Did you say it like that?
No, I said hey.
Okay. You said hey. Like that?
Nope. I said hey.
You said hey. He's a Giants fan. I'm a Cowboys fan. Look what hubby got for us to have at the watch party tonight, y'all. He went to the store today, and William Williams loves lemonade. He doesn't like cherries, but I like cherries. Asia, shout out. And then Asia said hi to you. Oh, you already said hi. Okay, I think I already said that. I'll be giving y'all shout outs probably 3 or 4 or 10 times. I just give shout outs because I love doing that. I love to acknowledge everybody naturally. And he gave me some cute little Halloween cupcakes that I'm going to be sharing with y'all. Is that not the cutest little cupcake? Oh my God, they're decorated so cute. You all, October is me and Andre's month. Andre, did you enjoy that Eagles loss?
Oh yeah.
He go, oh yeah. Why?
I don't like the Eagles.
Okay, he said he don't like the
I
Eagles.
like them better than the Cowboys.
But he said he likes them better than the Cowboys. Whatever. It doesn't matter what he thinks. And this is a green one. Is that not cute? Hubby went to the store. And he got me some roses. He got me 2 dozen of roses. He goes, Rhonda, because I love the spicy chicken from Golden Chick. Is it Golden Chick? From Golden Chick. And he knows I love the spicy chicken. And Andre says, the cat's licking my eyes. Okay. So help me with the cats while I'm live, please, Mr. Production Manager. Shoot, cat, right now. Don't get in there. Mark was enjoying it. Yeah, I saw Mark was feeling good. He's feeling good about the Eagles loss. I'm feeling great about the Eagles loss that I had a live watch party after the Eagles game. And I have on my YouTube channel where it's an awesome live. Y'all, it's an awesome live. I love my content. I love my content. And I should brag and talk about it. I love what I do. It's not a job. It's fun. And I'm going to find the link where I had talked about the Eagles. It was so much fun. And the more that I do this, the much more fun it gets for me. This will be the after Eagles loss. I'm going to post this right now. After Eagles watch party. And I'm going to I'm so glad to see Asia. I'm so happy, Asia. I'm so happy about you being here. we have a cat that's being very persistent because she probably wants cold water in her water bowl, Andre. I have cats, right? All of them have their really amazing personality. And I have one cat, her name is Nippy, and she likes ice in her water. She likes ice water. Yeah, yeah, and we give that to her. That's right. So yeah, so I thought this was so cool. This is happy October 1st. Happy October 1st to everybody. The time is 7:37 Central Standard Time, 8:37 Eastern Standard Time, and also 5:37 Pacific Standard Time. We are going to start they're going to start the watch party. I'm thinking at 8 o'clock Central Standard Time, which is 6 o'clock Pacific Time and 9 o'clock Eastern Time. And I do this. I have all age groups on my page. It's so important for me to make sure that I do give the different times because I'm telling you, when I was sitting on the other side as a viewer, that's something that I really wished for. I was like, oh, I wish people would give me my Central Standard Time. And then my sister, my husband's sister, I call her my sister. She is my sister, picking up my hair because I took my hair down, let my hair breathe. My hair is growing, it's thick, it's beautiful. Thank you all. Sometimes I'll go live and I'll be braiding my hair and I'll protect the ends. And I work on my hair like you work on a garden. I nurture it, I fertilize it, I give it conditioning, I cover it, protect my hair. So we have a wonderful, great show tonight. And let me tell you what that show is going to be about. Are y'all ready? Andre, we need a new quarterback. That's what Asia says. Andre, what do you think?
Yeah, we try to do good.
Why you say yours is good? Why? Answer that
Yeah,
question.
ours is good.
Why?
He's just feeling bad.
Okay, so hubby said that you all's quarterback is what?
Confused.
Uh, okay, so he said New York Giants quarterback is effed up, but you want to keep him?
Nope.
Okay, he doesn't want to keep Daniel Jones. So who would you like to have as your quarterback?
I don't know. Ain't nobody out there.
I mean, there are some college students out there that are really good college
If they're
students.
playing in college, boy, they ain't playing professional.
Yeah, but ask Washington Commanders. Washington Commanders has hired, I think it's Commander. Is it the Commanders? Is it Commanders? That hired an LSU, a young man from LSU quarterback. And I remember watching LSU games and I remember cheering him on. So I think, tell me if I'm right or wrong, I think he's a quarterback for Washington Commodes. And Washington Commodes are playing, yes, Jaden Daniels, yes, Jaden. And in Washington Commodes is playing better than last year, right? Obviously, Jaden is doing well for their team. So that's good. I mean, sometimes you just need to get some fresh people. Of course, I'm with the Cowboys and I love my Dak Prescott. Yes, CD. I love my CD Lamb, of course. And, wishing a shout out to Micah and everybody, other players out there who are injured, and just wish you all a speedy recovery. Please make sure that you don't go out there in the field, uh, and start playing and you're not fully well because we can't afford not to have you for the whole season. Couple of games, we could sacrifice that because to be honest with you, other people, and then dang, Asia says Washington Commanders is first place. Oh, whatever. Statistically, I know, but really, really, in everybody's heart and mind, we know that that Dak is daddy of NFC East. We all know that Dak is daddy of the NFC East. And Asia says, Rhonda, your fan base still divided about keeping Dak or not. That's not my fan base. This is a whole generation of people who don't understand the game, who probably, unfortunately, probably didn't have football fans in their life, maybe some dads or great grandparents or great grandfathers in their life to watch, sit down and watch the game with. And I know it sounds crazy, but that is a big, huge missing element. You know, I was around when we lived in Kansas City, Missouri. I was a little girl, and we'd go fishing. And we had my mother owned a 1968 Firebird Pontiac, and we'd go fishing. And we lived in the city, and my dad would play baseball on the AM radio. And I'm gonna tell you something. I was impacted when I was a kid, right? Just hearing the baseball game, hearing my granddad play the radio and listen to a baseball game. That sound is so amazing for me today, right? Because I had an influence. I had some really incredible men in my life. My dad is a Cowboys fan as long as I can remember. And I'm 58 years old and he's 80 something years old, 81. And so I remember growing up my whole life, and I thank God not everybody has that, you know, a wonderful father in their life. And I did. My daddy, just as he got older, his filter became more unhealthy. And my dad, you know, is suffering undiagnosed dementia and Alzheimer's. So I have nasty, mean sisters who manipulate, and it's a part of my life that I cannot be a part of anymore. I have to find happiness before getting sick and killing over, actually. So I'm happy. Trust me. A lot of people go, well, how can you live without your mom and dad? Because I know when I last spent time with them, I gave them my all. I did more than probably any daughter would give. And I gave all I got. And I still, you know, still things didn't work out. But what I gave, I really nurtured that, and I really feel great about it. So the point I'm trying to make is that sometimes there could be a person, and I know that we have women, you know, parents and women who are, you know, there is relationships between woman and woman. Just somebody in that child's life who knows sports, because sports teaches you a lot. It teaches you class, it teaches you discipline, it teaches you how to deal with failure and how to deal with winning. And to me, it's just so important to make sure that whether it's a woman or a man, and in my day, I was influenced by men in my family, both grandparents, great grandparent, and my dad. When we watched the game, they taught me how to watch football. I was just sitting there and observing, and I sat there and watched my dad, how he reacted. And I learned when he shouted out things and shouted out plays, and I learned how to become a fan. And one top thing I'm going to end this note about, because I'm a Cowboys fan, is that it's important to know how to be a fan. And that top thing on how to be a fan is to cheer your team no matter what. If the score is not what you wish it should be, cheer them even harder. Cheer them even louder, because I come from an energy and I come from a family who cheered their team no matter what. And I understand that feeling. I witnessed that feeling when there was some doubt. And I witnessed how my parents handled that doubt while watching the Cowboys. And I was also a part of that history, making Super Bowl wins with the Cowboys. I was able to experience what it was like to be disappointed and to be happy. Today, what's happening, the fan base, the newer, younger people have never experienced Cowboys winning Super Bowls, right? So when you see the younger people have never experienced it, but they know that Cowboys have won the Super Bowl, but they've never experienced it, then they really feel angry and upset, and they use words Cowboys is trash, because they have a right to be upset, but they hadn't experienced it. It's why there's a different fan base. that's probably against Dak are very mad at Dallas Cowboys because they never had that experience of witnessing the win. And then you have people like me that I understand it and I get it. And I had experienced the win. So I'm loyal. So we just have to teach people on how to be fans, how to be better fans. That the kind of fan, if you're a true fan, ride or die, you don't turn your back just because you ain't doing everything perfect, especially trashing your team in the first quarter. That really pisses the hell out of me when people do. I'm going, golly, you're ruining the experience of me being, enjoying the game. Lola, Lola, hot sauce. Welcome, hot sauce. Lola Cowboys has made it. Hello, my beautiful Cowboy Nation sister star. And hello to Asia. Asia says, rest in peace. Yes, Pete Rose, rest in peace. And basketball legend Dikembe Mutombo.
And John Amos died
Oh, my.
today.
And then, of course, hubby just added John Amos. Now, it sounds like John Amos died in August,
Yeah,
but the family didn't release that until now. So, rest in peace to all of you all. Thank you for the update, Asia. I love your updates. I love the updates. There's a reason why I have special people in my life who carry the wrench, because I know who's very knowledgeable with things, who knows how to contribute and engage. Yeah, John Amos did pass away. He passed away actually in August, but they did not do actually a press release until today. They didn't let everybody know until today. So rest in peace, John Amos. And we have a wonderful party tonight, a watch party where I, Rhonda, your girl, I give great watch parties. And I incorporate football and politics. And I incorporate politics and sports and watch parties and all that in a bag of chips, because I'm a big believer that when it comes to sports, it is very political. And if people don't think that should mix, you got to do a step back, reset, and really pay attention to how politics is all in sports. I mean, we have people who are owners, who are employees, who are employers, who are on the board, who donate a lot of money to a political party. It's very important to understand that and understand where your team stands. Yeah, I feel Jerry Jones is a Republican. I feel that most of his players are Democrat. I know that Tom Brady is a Republican. I know the guy that's going to court and being sued for stealing from poor people, stealing government money. What's his name, Andre?
Brett Favre.
Brett Favre. Is that political? Lola says, I'm watching WNBA playoffs. And Asia says, Derrick Rose retired. Oh, yeah, that's right. Derrick Rose. I was getting that mixed with Derrick Henry. But yeah, I mean, is that political enough for you? Huh? Brett Favre is charged for illegally taking money. He's in court now. He's taken money from the government for which people who are eligible for food stamps and state assistance or whatever, he took that money, he stole that money, and he invested it into a gym for, I believe, his daughter, where a gym is in a zip code that is not for mostly minorities. So it's a gym that is not accessible to everybody. It's not a nonprofit gym. It's from the private sector, and he stole money. His daughter's college gym. It's a gym. He stole that money. He spent that money on that. So he's in court right now. And also, yes, I understand he recently, spoke up in court. And we're going to play this live. I'm going to have this live on the screen where everybody can see it. He spoke up in court and said he's diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. Huh? Yeah, and we're not excusing Parkinson's disease. My mother has Parkinson's. But we've had people to talk about the political aspect of it. And the political aspect of it is that he sure picked a fine time to talk about it. You picked a fine time to leave me, Lucille. For hungry children and a crop in the field. Y'all know country music? I've had some good times and I had some bad times. Da 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 da. You picked a fine time to leave me, Lucille. I know I love country. I love country music. Yes, I do. Yeah, you picked a fine time to leave me, Lucille. I'm going to be playing the watch party at 8 o'clock. At 8 o'clock, welcome everybody. And they did have some rules. And Asia said, who that? Who that? You talking about who's singing that song? You picked a fine time to leave me, Lucille. La da 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 da. I've had some good times and I had some bad times. Da 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 da. You picked a fine time to leave me, Lucille. I love singing. Let's find these lyrics because I want to go da 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 da. Oh, la, la, la. Yep, in 5 minutes, we're going to play the watch party. It's going to come on live. Vice presidential debate. Welcome to the watch party. When you're hanging out with your girl, Rhonda's Lovely Sparks, it's going to be a party, okay? Hubby is here, and we're going to party. Come on, baby, get on it. Let's see, where is it at? You picked a fine time to leave me, Lucille. I think Asia probably asked me who sung that. Kenny Rogers. Kenny Rogers sung it. Oh, what's up, everybody? Who we got sitting up here? Who we got? Shout them out. You sing country music too. I sing all kinds of music. I love singing all kinds of music. All kinds. You picked a fine time to leave me, Lucille. With 4 hungry children and a crop in the field. I've had some bad times and I had some good times. Lived through some sad times, but this time your hurting won't heal. You picked a fine time to leave me, Lucille. Okay, I'm glad you all enjoyed that. And the crowd goes wild. What's up, Jeff Lee? Hot white chocolate is in the house. White chocolate. Jeff Lee, a.k.a. Jeff Lee, my brother. My brother from another mother.
Sent me the recipe the other day.
Yeah.
Ooh.
BV Blue Velvet.
Blue Velvet.
Shout out to Blue Velvet for sending Andre banana nut bread recipe from Saturday's watch party. We got the email. Thank you, BV. I know you're out there somewhere. And then Jeff Lee says, "Hi, Andre." He goes, his mouth is full of ice cream. He goes,
Potato salad.
"Oh, potato salad." Andre, he said hi. Tell him hi back.
Hi.
He goes, hi. Did you say it like that?
Mm-hmm.
He says no. Okay. Did you say it like, hey, Jeff Lee? You say it like that? Okay. Well, I never get that part right. I really try. Jeff Lee said, I heard him. He said, hi. We said hi. Right? I'm just mimicking him. Nobody else. Y'all, what do we have here? Election day is in 34 days. We're doing a countdown of the election. Lola's laughing. Lola hot sauce. Asia says, I'm silly. He go, hey, Jeff Lee. You say it like that, babe?
Nope.
He said no.
That sounds like a Cowboys fan.
He said that sounds like a Cowboys fan. No, it doesn't. Did you go, hi? You said like that?
Mhm.
You said no. Okay, so I think you went, I think you did that. That is as close as it's going to get, okay? It ain't going to get any better. All right? All right. He's a Giants fan. I'm not going to be trying to represent him 100%. However, 34 days to the election. Go to vote.org. Vote.org. It just takes 3 minutes. Put in your social security number, I believe. Put in your name, your address, and it will verify quickly because the rolls are being hey, watch it, Andre the Giant. Jeff Lee said, watch it. Hey, watch it, Andre. And then Asia says, Andre, how you put up with her? How do you put up with me? You know why? Because I make him laugh all the time. He says I'm funny when I'm not trying to be funny. And I think I'm not trying to be funny, though. I mean, seriously, y'all know that, right? I'm never trying to be funny. I mean, if it comes out a certain way. It just does. And it's usually by accident when my funniest moments come. And even by funniest moments, I'm not trying to be funny because usually it's very embarrassing, like him scaring the crippy crap out of me. I mean, that's not funny. I mean, I was like full blown cuss word that day. There was no hiding it. One day at a time. I can sing country. So one day at a time, sweet Jesus. Da 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 da. One day at a time. Yeah, Patsy Cline, George Jones. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Then Rhonda, I'm taking one day at a time, sweet Jesus. Yes, Asia Robertson. We are all of us. We are your biggest cheerleader. And that one day at a time is so phenomenal when you could take one day at a time. And Jeff Lee says, get it, girly. Get it, girly. Uh-huh. 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 Get it, girly. Get it, girly. And then, yes, one day at a time, because those are phenomenal steps. We didn't get to where we are today overnight, just like when I gained a lot of weight. So it took me a year and a half to lose 85 pounds. And I plan, if I can, for December, I plan to get to 100-pound loss by December. Okay? That's my goal. But was it overnight? I didn't say roll your eyes. Whatever. I feel booby art coming. Y'all know Jeff Lee's an artist, right? He's a booby artist. I've never seen anybody that could do that so perfectly. I'm like, it's close to like that close to porn, but it's not because it's cartoonish. Like it's made out of punctuation points and marks, and yeah, so it's not porn. But it's just amazing. It's like it's made out of parentheses and periods and slants, and it's really cool. Can you do that, Jeff Lee? Can you do booby art? We're just curious. I know people don't. Andre probably looking at you like, what's wrong with this woman? He doesn't. He does not looking at me. Andre, are you looking at me? No, he's eating his homemade potato salad from yesterday. Yes, baby, yes. What you cooked yesterday? He cooked ribs, and I was eating. Yum, 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 yum. And Mark Holmes was here, and Mark was like, how much, Andre? He was talking to my hubby. He said, there's booby art. Y'all see booby art? That's Jeff Lee's booby art. Mark Holmes asked hubby, how much will you sell me ribs for? And hubby's like, and then hubby's asking, he wants it cooked or was it raw? I said, he'll want it cooked. And hubby told Mark, well, you can get a cooked slab at cost because he spent $5 on a slab of ribs from Kroger's. So he bought two, which is a dadgum good price, right? And I'm not paying attention to Jeff Lee right now. But what time does it start? 24 seconds, the debate's gonna start. I make politics fun. I don't argue with people I don't agree with. I don't disrespect the opposition. As a matter of fact, I learn from people who vote different than me. Uh, One day at a time, sweet Jesus. That's right. Uh-oh, here we go. Here we go, y'all. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Welcome to Rhonda's Lovely Sparks watch party for our first vice presidential debate between J.D. Lance, Republican, and also with Kamala Harris, Democrat. We're going to have some
candidates with the opportunity to fact-check claims made by each other. CS News reserves the right to mute the candidates' microphones to maintain decorum.
Oh, right.
The questions or topics with the campaigns. The stage is set. Governor, Senator, thank you for joining us. Let's get started. Tonight, our country is facing several unfolding crises.
We're going to love politics.
Americans are suffering.
We're going to love politics, Age. I'm going to make you love it.
And now a labor strike as 25,000 dock workers from Maine to Texas are picketing. We're going to begin tonight with the Middle East.
I'll give you good reasons to love it. Okay?
Today, Iran launched its largest
Even being here gives you a good reason. Here we go. Here's the first question.
To joint U.S. and Israeli defensive action. President Biden has deployed more than 40,000 U.S. military personnel and assets to that region over the past year to try to prevent a regional war. Iran is weakened, but the U.S. still considers it the largest state sponsor of terrorism in the world, and it has drastically reduced the time it would take to develop a nuclear weapon. It is down now to 1 or 2 weeks' time. Governor Walz, if you were the final voice in the Situation Room, would you support or oppose a preemptive strike by Israel on Iran? You have 2 minutes.
Well, thank you. And thank you for those joining at home tonight. Let's keep in mind where this started. October 7th, Hamas terrorists massacred over 1,400 Israelis and took prisoners. Israel's ability to be able to defend itself is absolutely fundamental. Getting its hostages back, fundamental, and ending the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. But the expansion of Israel and its proxies is an absolute fundamental necessity for the United States to have the steady leadership there. You saw it experienced today, where along with our Israeli partners and our coalition, able to stop the incoming attack. But what's fundamental here is that steady leadership is going to matter. It's clear, and the world saw it on that debate stage a few weeks ago. A nearly 80-year-old Donald Trump talking about crowd sizes is not what we need in this moment. But it's not just that. It's those that were closest to Donald Trump that understand how dangerous he is when the world is this dangerous. His chief of staff, John Kelly, said that he was the most flawed human being he'd ever met. And both of his secretaries of defense and his national security advisors said he should be nowhere near the White House. Now, the person closest to them, Donald Trump, said he's unfit for the highest office. That was Senator Vance. What we've seen out of Vice President Harris is we've seen steady leadership. We've seen a calmness that is able to draw on the coalitions to bring them together. Understanding that our allies matter. When our allies see Donald Trump turn towards Vladimir Putin, turn towards North Korea, when we start to see that type of fickleness around holding the coalitions together, we will stay committed. And as the vice president said today we will protect our forces and our allied forces, and there will be consequences.
Governor, your time is up. Senator Vance, the same question. Would you support or oppose a preemptive strike by Israel on Iran? You have 2 minutes.
So, Margaret, I want to answer the question. First of all, thanks, Governor. Thanks to CBS for hosting the debate. And thanks, most importantly, to the American people who are watching this evening and caring enough about this country to pay attention to this vice presidential debate. I want to answer the question, but I want to actually give it
hello, Reese's Cup. I love you. Woot, woot.
Who either one of us are.
Welcome, Asia. Appreciate you being here, Lola.
required food assistance.
Jeff Lee is going to sleep. He's going night-night.
Required Social Security help to raise me.
Welcome
and to
back,
raise me
Recess.
Because my own mother struggled with addiction for a big chunk of my early life. I went to college on the GI Bill after I enlisted in the Marine Corps and served in Iraq. And so I stand here asking to be your vice president with extraordinary gratitude for this country, for the American dream that made it possible for me to live my dreams. And most importantly, I know that a lot of you are worried about the chaos in the world and the feeling that the American dream is unattainable. I want to try to convince you tonight over the next 90 minutes that if we get better leadership in the
He's
White
not
House,
speaking
if we
to
get
all of
Donald
us.
Trump back in the White House, the American dream is going to be attainable once again. Now, to answer this particular question, we have to remember that as much as Governor Walz just accused Donald Trump of being an agent of chaos, Donald Trump actually delivered stability in the world, and he did it by establishing effective deterrence. People were afraid of stepping out of line.
Okay,
Iran,
Recess,
which
thank
has
you.
received over $100 billion in unfrozen assets thanks to the Kamala Harris administration. What do they use that money for? They use it to buy weapons that they're now launching against our allies, and God forbid, potentially launching against the United States as well. Donald Trump recognized that for people to fear the United States, you needed peace through strength. They needed to recognize that if they got out of line, the United States global leadership would put stability and peace back in the world. Now, you asked about a preemptive strike, Margaret, and I want to answer the question. Look, it is up to Israel what they think they need to do to keep their country safe, and we should support our allies wherever they are when they're fighting the bad guys. I think that's the right approach to take with the Israel question.
Thank you, Senator. Governor Walz,
That sure was
do you
a
care to
long
respond
answer.
to any of the allegations?
Well, look, Donald Trump was in office. We'll sometimes hear a revisionist history, but when Donald Trump was in office, it was Donald Trump who we had a coalition of nations that had boxed Iran's nuclear program in, the inability to advance it. Donald Trump pulled that program and put nothing else in its place. So Iran is closer to a nuclear weapon than they were before because of Donald Trump's fickle leadership. And when Iran shot down an American aircraft in international airspace, Donald Trump tweeted, because that's the standard diplomacy of Donald Trump. And when Iranian missiles did fall near U.S. troops and they received traumatic brain injuries, Donald Trump wrote it off as headaches. Look, our allies understand that Donald Trump is fickle. He will go to whoever has the most flattery or where it makes sense to him. Steady leadership like you witnessed today, like you witnessed in April. Both Iranian attacks were repelled. Our coalition is strong, and we need the steady leadership that Kamala Harris is providing.
Senator Vance, the U.S. did have a diplomatic deal with Iran to temporarily pause parts of its nuclear program, and President Trump did exit that deal. He recently said, just 5 days ago, the U.S. must now make a diplomatic deal with Iran because the consequences are impossible. Did he make a mistake? You have 1 minute.
Well, first of all, Margaret, diplomacy is not a dirty word, but I think that's something that Governor Walz just said is quite extraordinary. You yourself just said Iran is as close to a nuclear weapon today as they have ever been. And Governor Walz, you blame Donald Trump. Who has been the vice president for the last 3.5 years? And the answer is your running mate, not mine. Donald Trump consistently made the world more secure. Now, we talk about the sequence of events that led us to where we are right now, and you can't ignore October the 7th, which I appreciate Governor Walz bringing up. But when did Iran and Hamas and their proxies attack Israel? It was during the administration of Kamala Harris. So Governor Walz can criticize Donald Trump's tweets, but effective, smart diplomacy and peace through strength is how you bring stability back to a very broken world. Donald Trump has already done it once before. Ask yourself at home, when was the last time, I'm 40 years old, when was the last time that an American president didn't have a major conflict break out? The only answer is during the 4 years that Donald Trump was president.
Gentlemen, we have a lot to get to. Nora?
Margaret, thank you. Let's turn now to Hurricane Helene. The storm could become one of the deadliest on record.
Hey, the Tea Lounge. Hi, Tea Lounge. Welcome back.
Scientists say climate change makes these hurricanes larger.
Tea Lounge, I have been watching your channel, and I love your channel. I love your setup. I love your voice, how you speak on your channel. I really do. You're classy. I love it. It's entertaining. I love it. I enjoy you. What a great channel.
Administration have to try and reduce the impact of climate change. I'll give you 2 minutes.
Sure. So first of let's start with the hurricane because it's
Y'all subscribe to
unbelievable,
T.
unspeakable human
Lounge.
tragedy. I just saw today actually a photograph
Please
of two
subscribe to her.
grandparents
She's
on a roof with a
amazing.
6-year-old child, and it was the last photograph ever taken of them because
You're
the roof
welcome.
collapsed and those innocent people lost their lives. And I'm sure Governor Walz joins me in saying our hearts go out to those innocent people, our prayers go out to them, and we want as robust and aggressive as a federal response as we can get to save as many lives as possible, and then of course afterwards to help the people in those communities rebuild. I mean, these are communities that I love. Some of them I know very personally in Appalachia, all across the Southeast. They need their government to do their job, and I commit that when Donald Trump is president again, the government will put the citizens of this country first when they suffer from a disaster. Now, Nora, you asked about climate change. I think this is a very important issue. Look, a lot of people are justifiably worried about all these crazy weather patterns. I think it's important for us, first of all, to say Donald Trump and I support clean air, clean water. We want the environment to be cleaner and safer. But one of the things that I've noticed some of our Democratic friends talking a lot about is a concern about carbon emissions, this idea that carbon emissions drives all of the climate change. Well, let's just say that's true, just for the sake of argument, so we're not arguing
He's
about
long-winded.
science. Let's just say that's true. Well, if you believe that, what would you want to do? The answer is that you'd want to reshore as much American manufacturing as possible, and you'd want to produce as much energy as possible in the United States of America because we're the cleanest economy in the entire world. What have Kamala Harris's policies actually led to? More energy production in China, more manufacturing overseas, more doing business in some of the dirtiest parts of the entire world. And when I say that, I mean the amount of carbon emissions they're doing per unit of economic output. So if we
you can post your link here to T Lounge.
thing to do is to double down.
You can post your YouTube channel.
And the American people, and unfortunately, Kamala Harris has done exactly the opposite.
Governor Walz, you have 2 minutes to respond.
Well, we got close to an agreement because all those things are happening. Look, first of all, it is a horrific tragedy with this hurricane, and my heart goes out to the folks that are down there in contact with the governors. I serve as co-chair of the Council of Governors as we work together on these emergency managements. Governors know no partisanship. They work together so all of the governors and the emergency responders are on the ground. Those happen on the front end. The federal government comes in, makes sure they're there to that we recover, but we're still at phase where we need to make sure that they're staying there.
Thank you, T Lounge.
Coming back to the issue, there's no doubt this thing roared onto the scene faster and stronger than anything we've seen. Senator Vance has said that there's a climate problem in the past. Donald Trump called it a hoax and then joked that these things would make more beachfront property to be able to invest in. What we've seen out of the Harris administration now, the Biden-Harris administration, is we've seen this investment. We've seen massive investments, the biggest in global history that we've seen in the Inflation Reduction Act, has created jobs all across the country. 2,000 in Jeffersonville, Ohio, taking the EV technology that we invented and making it here. 200,000 jobs across the country. The largest solar manufacturing plant in North America sits in Minnesota. But my farmers know climate change is real. They've seen 500-year droughts, 500-year floods back to back. But what they're doing is adapting. And me, look, I harvest corn, I harvest soybean, I harvest wind. We are producing more natural gas and more oil at any time than we ever have. We're also producing more clean energy. So the solution for us is to continue to move forward, that climate change is real. Reducing our impact is absolutely critical, but this is not a false choice. You can do that at the same time you're creating the jobs that we're seeing all across the country. That's exactly what this administration has done. We are seeing us becoming an energy superpower for the future, not just the current, and that's what absolutely makes sense. And then we start thinking about how do we mitigate these disasters.
Thank you. Senator, I want to give you an opportunity to respond there. The governor mentioned that President Trump has called climate change a hoax. Do you agree?
Well, look, what the president has said is that if the Democrats, in particular Kamala Harris and her leadership, if they really believe that climate change is serious, what they would be doing is more manufacturing and more energy production in the United States of America, and that's not what they're doing. So clearly Kamala Harris herself doesn't believe her own rhetoric on this. If she did, she would actually agree with Donald Trump's energy policies. Now, something Governor Walz said I think is important to touch upon, because when we talk about clean energy, I think that's a slogan that often the Democrats will use here. I'm talking, of course, about the Democratic leadership. And the real issue is that if you're spending hundreds of millions or even billions of dollars of American taxpayer money on solar panels that are made in China, number one, you're going to make the economy dirtier. We should be making more of those solar panels here in the United States of America. Some of them are, Tim, but a lot of them are being made overseas in China, especially the components that go into those solar panels. So if you really want to make the environment cleaner, you've got to invest in more energy production. We haven't built a nuclear facility, I think, one in the past 40 years. Natural gas, we got to invest more in it. Kamala Harris has done the opposite. That's raised energy
Mute
prices
his mic.
that we're doing.
Senator, your time is up. Governor, would you like to respond?
Well, look, we're producing more natural gas than we ever have. There's no more on that. We're producing more oil. But folks know, and like I said again, these are not liberal folks. These are not folks that are Green New Deal folks. These are farmers that have been drought one year, massive flooding the next year. They understand that it makes sense. Look, our number one export cannot be topsoil from erosion from these massive storms. We saw it in Minnesota this summer. And thinking about how do we respond to that, we're thinking ahead on this. And what Kamala Harris has been able to do in Minnesota, we're starting to weatherproof some of these things. The infrastructure law that was passed allows us to think about mitigation in the future. How do we make sure that we're protecting by burying our power lines? How do we make sure that we're protecting lakefront and things that we're seeing more and more of? But to call it a hoax and to take the oil company executives to Mar-a-Lago, say, give me money for my campaign, and I'll let you do whatever you want. We can be smarter about that. And an all-above energy policy is exactly what she's doing, creating those jobs right here.
Governor, your time is up. The overwhelming consensus among scientists is that the Earth's climate is warming at an unprecedented rate. Margaret?
Thank you, Nora. We're going to turn now to immigration. The crisis at the U.S.-Mexico border consistently ranks as one of the top issues for American voters. Senator Vance, your campaign is pledging to carry out the largest mass deportation plan in American history and to use the U.S. military to do so. Could you be more specific about exactly how this will work? For example, would you deport parents who have entered the U.S. illegally and separate them from any of their children who were born on U.S. soil? You have 2 minutes.
So first of all, Margaret, before we talk about deportations, we have to stop the bleeding. We have a historic immigration crisis.
Answer that effing question.
And said that she wanted to undo all of Donald Trump's border policies. 94 executive orders suspending deportations, decriminalizing illegal aliens, massively increasing the asylum fraud that exists in our system. That has opened the floodgates. And what it's meant is that a lot of fentanyl is coming into our country. I had a mother who struggled with opioid addiction and gotten clean. I don't want people who are struggling with addiction to be deprived of their second chance because Kamala Harris let in fentanyl into our communities at record levels. So
exactly.
Stop the bleeding.
T-Lounge said he is deflecting. You didn't answer the question.
Deportations, and that gets me to your point, Margaret, about what do we actually do? So we've got 25 million illegal aliens who are here in the country. What do we do with them? I think the first thing that we do is we start with the criminal migrants. About 1 million of those people have committed some form of crime in addition to crossing the border illegally. And you start with deportation.
That's Nippy behind me. She likes ice water. She likes ice.
To undercut the wages of American workers. A lot of people will go home if they can't work for less than minimum wage in our own country. And by the way, that'll be really good for our workers who just want to earn a fair wage for doing a good day's work. And the final point, Margaret, is you asked about family separation. Right now in this country, Margaret, we have 320,000 children that the Department of Homeland Security has effectively lost. Some of them have been sex trafficked. Some of them hopefully are at homes with their families. Some of them have been used.
How many minutes do they get?
The real family
2
separation
minutes.
policy in this country
Hubby said 2 minutes.
Unfortunately, Kamala Harris's wide open southern border. And I'd ask my fellow Americans to remember when she came into office, she said she was going to do this. Real leadership would be saying, you know what, I screwed up. We're going to go back to Donald Trump's border policies. I wish that she would do that. It would be good for all of us.
Governor, do you care to respond to any of those specific allegations, including that the vice president is, quote, letting in fentanyl and using kids as drug mules, among other things regarding children?
Right.
The drug mule is not true, but I will say about the fentanyl, because this is a crisis of this, the opioid crisis. And the good news on this is the last 12 months saw the largest decrease in opioid deaths in our nation's history. 30% decrease in Ohio, but there's still more work to do. But let's go back to this on immigration. Kamala Harris was the Attorney General of the largest state, a border state in California. She's the only person in this race who prosecuted transnational gangs for human trafficking and drug interventions. But look, we all want to solve this. Most of us want to solve this. And that is the United States Congress. That's the Border Patrol agents. That's the Chamber of Commerce. That's most Americans out here. That's why we had the fairest and the toughest bill on immigration that this nation's seen. It was crafted by a conservative senator from Oklahoma, James Lankford. I know him. He's super conservative, but he's a man of principle, wants to get it done. Democrats and Republicans worked on this piece of legislation. The Border Patrol said, this is what we need in here. These are the experts. And the Chamber of Commerce and the Wall Street Journal said, pass this thing. Kamala Harris helped get there. 1,500 new border agents. Detection for drugs. DOJ money to speed up these the adjudications on this, just what America wants. But as soon as I was getting ready to pass and actually tackle this, Donald Trump said no, told them to vote against it because it gives him a campaign issue. It gives him what would Donald Trump talk about if we actually did some of these things? And they need to be done by the legislature. You can't just do this through the executive branch. So look, we have the options to do this. Donald Trump had 4 years. He had 4 years to do this. And he promised you, America, how easy it would be. I'll build you a big, beautiful wall, and Mexico will pay for it. Less than 2% of that wall got built, and Mexico didn't pay a dime. But here we are again, 9 years after he came down that escalator, dehumanizing people and telling them what he was going to do. As far as the deportation plan, at one point, Senator Vance said it was so unworkable to be laughable. So that's where we're at. Pass the bill, she'll sign it.
Governor, your time is up. Senator, the question was, will you separate parents from their children, even if their kids are U.S. citizens? You have 1 minute.
Margaret, my point is that we
This right here is J.D. Lance, and he's, J.D. Vance is running for Republican with Trump right here on the left. On the right, he's running as vice president for Kamala Harris. So on the left is J.D. Vance. Right. So Reese Cup said it's monotone and loud at the same time, which is weird. I can't understand him. Is he actually answering the questions? He's trained to promote. He's trained to promote his agenda and sidetrack answering. You know.
She became the appointed border czar was to undo 94 Donald Trump executive actions that opened the border. This problem is leading to massive problems in the United States of America. Parents who can't afford health care, schools that are overwhelmed. It's got to stop, and it will when Donald Trump is president.
Senator, your time is up. Governor, what about our CBS News polling, which does show that a majority of Americans, more than 50%, support mass deportations?
Look, we fix this issue with a bill that is necessary, but the issue on this is what happens when you don't want to solve it. You demonize it. And we saw this, and Senator Vance, and it surprises me on this, talking about and saying, I will create stories to bring attention to this.
Right.
That vilified a large number of people who were here legally in the community of Springfield. The Republican governor said, it's not true, don't do it. There's consequences for this. We could come together. Senator Lankford did it. We could come together and solve this.
Look how he's looking.
Let Donald Trump continue to make it an issue. And the consequences in Springfield were the governor had to send state law enforcement to escort kindergartners to school. I believe Senator Vance wants to solve this, but by standing with Donald Trump and not working together to find a solution, it becomes a talking point. And when it becomes a talking point like this, we dehumanize and villainize other human beings.
Tim.
Governor, your time is up. Senator, I'll give you 1 minute, but let me just ask you the question first. The governor has made the point, and I think as a sitting lawmaker, you know that Congress controls the purse strings and any funding. So you have said repeatedly that Donald Trump would, through executive action, solve this. Do you disagree that Congress controls the purse strings and would need to support many of the changes that you would actually want to implement? You have 1 minute.
Look, Margaret, first of all, the gross majority of what we need to do at the southern border is just empowering law enforcement to do their job. I've been to the southern border more than our border czar Kamala Harris has been, and it's actually heartbreaking because the Border Patrol agents, they just want to be empowered to do their job. Of course, additional resources would help, but most of this is about the president and a vice president empowering our law enforcement to say, if you try to come across the border illegally, you've got to stay in Mexico, you've got to go back through proper channels. Now, Governor Walz brought up the community of Springfield, and he's very worried about the things that I've said in Springfield. Look, in Springfield, Ohio, and in communities all across this country, you've got schools that are overwhelmed. You've got hospitals that are overwhelmed. You've got housing that is totally unaffordable because we brought in millions of illegal immigrants to compete with Americans for scarce homes. The people that I'm most worried about in Springfield, Ohio, are the American citizens who have had their lives destroyed by Kamala Harris's open border. It is a disgrace, Tim. And I actually think, I agree with you. I think you want to solve this problem, but I don't think that Kamala Harris does.
Senator, your time is up. Governor,
What the hell was that?
Yeah, well, it is law enforcement that asked for the bill. They helped craft it. They're the ones that supported it. That's because they know we need to do this. Look, this issue of continuing to bring this up, of not dealing with it, of blaming migrants for everything. On housing, we can talk a little bit about Wall Street speculators buying up housing and making them less affordable, but it becomes a blame. Look, this bill also gives the money necessary to adjudicate. I agree. It should not take 7 years for an asylum claim to be done. This bill gets it done in 90 days. Then you start to make a difference in this, and you start to adhere to what we know, American principles. Look, I don't talk about my faith a lot, but Matthew 25:40 talks about, to the least amongst us you do unto me. I think that's true of most Americans. They simply want order to it. This bill does it. It's funded. It's supported by the people who do it, and it lets us keep our dignity about how we treat other people.
Thank you, Governor. And just
There
to
you go.
clarify for our viewers, Springfield, Ohio does have a large number of Haitian migrants who have legal status, temporary protected status. Maura? Thank you, Senator. We have so much to get to.
Shut up, Vance. Shut up. Mute his mic. Mute his mic. Mute his mic. Mute his mic. No.
So there's an application called
Hey, that's wrong. Mute his mic.
As an illegal migrant,
It's not fair.
asylum or apply for
That's not fair.
granted legal status at the wave of a Kamala Harris open border wand. That is not a person coming in, applying for a green card and waiting for 10 years. That
Thank
is
you,
the
Senator.
implementation of illegal immigration, Margaret, by
Mute his
Senator, for
mic.
Describing the legal process.
Mute his mic.
To get to, Senator. We have so much.
On the book since 1990.
Thank you, gentlemen.
The
We want to have.
app has not been on the books since 1990. It's something that Kamala Harris created, Margaret.
Gentlemen, the audience.
They didn't mute.
because your mics
They
are
didn't
on.
mute
We
Vance.
have so much we want to get
But
to.
they
Thank you
mute
for explaining the
Walz.
legal process.
Bullshit.
Nora, thank you, Margaret. The economy is a top concern for voters.
Oh my God.
Campaigns has released a plan, so let's talk about the specifics. Governor Walz, Vice President
That's
Harris unveiled
bull.
a plan that includes billions in tax credits for manufacturing, housing, and a tax credit. The Wharton School says your proposals will increase the nation's deficit by $1.2 trillion. How would you pay for that without ballooning the deficit? Governor, I'll give you 2 minutes.
Yeah, thank you. And Kamala Harris and I do believe we both grew up in that. We understand. So those who deny it, you're hearing a lot of stuff back and forth, and it's good. It's healthy. That's what this is supposed to happen. You should be listening. How's this going to impact me? The bold forward plan that Kamala Harris put out there is talking about this housing issue. The one thing is there's 3 million new houses proposed under this plan.
Reese's Cup said, now the host looks weak, and they were really trying to stop him.
Asset to be traded somewhere. It's foundational to where you're at. And then making sure that the things you buy every day.
And T. Lounge said, I really don't care for the Democrat stance on the migrant issue. And then Reese's Cup said, why does he get to just keep talking and not answering the question?
As far as the housing goes, I've seen it.
And T. Lounge said, uh-oh, it's a free-for-all. Reese's Cup says, T. Lounge says, I was thinking the same thing, Reese's.
$6,000 child tax credit. We have one in Minnesota, reduces childhood poverty by 1/3. We save money in the long run, and we do the right thing for families. And businesses off the ground. The law as it stands right now is $5,000 tax credit for small business, increasing that to $50,000. Now, this is a philosophical difference between us. Donald Trump made a promise, and I'll give you this. He kept it. He took folks in Mar-a-Lago, said, you're rich as hell, I'm going to give you a tax cut. He gave the tax cuts that predominantly went to the top class. What happened there was an $8 trillion increase in the national debt, the largest ever. Now he's proposing a 20% consumption or sales tax on everything we bring in. Everyone agrees, including businesses, it would be destabilizing it would increase inflation and potentially lead to a recession. Look, this is simple for you. Where are we going? Kamala Harris has said to do the things she wants to do, we'll just ask the wealthiest to pay their fair share. When you do that, our system works best. More people are participating in it, and folks have the things that they need.
Senator, I want to give you a moment to respond on that. But similarly, the Wharton School has done an analysis of the Trump plan and says it would increase the nation's deficit by $5.8 trillion. My question is the same for you. How do you pay for all that without ballooning the deficit? I'll give you 2 minutes.
Well, first of all, you're going to hear a lot from Tim Walz this evening, and you just heard it in the answer. A lot of what Kamala Harris proposes to do, and some of it, I'll be honest with you, it even sounds pretty good. Here's what you won't hear, is that Kamala Harris has already done it, because she's been the vice president for 3.5 years. She had the opportunity to enact all of these great policies, and what she's actually done instead is drive the cost of food higher by 25%, drive the cost of housing higher by about 60%, open the American southern border and make middle-class life unaffordable for a large number of Americans. If Kamala Harris has such great plans for how to address middle-class problems, then she ought to do them now. Not what asking for promotion, but in the job the American people gave her 3.5 years ago. And the fact that she isn't tells you a lot about how much you can trust her actual plans. Now, Donald Trump's economic plan is not just a plan, but it's also a record. A lot of those same economists attack Donald Trump's plans, and they have PhDs, but they don't have common sense and they don't have wisdom, because Donald Trump's economic policies delivered the highest take-home pay in a generation in this country, 1.5% inflation, and to boot, peace and security all over the world. So when people say that Donald Trump's economic plan doesn't make sense, I say look at the record. He delivered rising take-home pay for American workers. Now, Tim admirably admits that they want to undo the Trump tax cuts, but if you look at what was so different about Donald Trump's tax cuts, even from previous Republican tax plans, is that a lot of those resources went to giving more take-home pay to middle-class and working-class Americans. It was passed in 2017, and you saw an American economic boom unlike we've seen in a generation in this country. That is a record that I'm proud to run on, and we're going to get back to that.
Reese's Cup said, I hate that it's running topic, including abortion. And T. Lounge said that's 4 times more than the Democrats.
Donald Trump brings back common sense to this country.
Governor, do you want to respond to that? What has Kamala Harris done for the middle class?
Yeah, well, Kamala Harris's day one was Donald Trump's failure on COVID that led to the collapse of our economy. We were already before COVID in a manufacturing recession, but 10 million people out of work, largest percentage since the Great Depression. 9 million jobs closed on that. That was day one. Whether it was the Infrastructure Act or other things we moved. Now, you made a question about experts said this. I've made a note of this. Economists can't be trusted. Science can't be trusted. National security folks can't be trusted. Look, if you're going to be president, you don't have all the answers. Donald Trump believes he does. My pro tip of the day is this. If you need heart surgery, listen to the people at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota, not Donald Trump. And the same thing goes with this. And I ask you out there, teachers, nurses, truck drivers, whatever, how is it fair that you're paying your taxes every year and Donald Trump hasn't paid any federal tax in the last 15 years, and the last year as president? That's what's wrong with the system. There's a way around it, and he's bragged about that. We're just asking for fairness in it, and that's all you want.
You have a minute.
Governor, you say trust the experts, but those same experts for 40 years said that if we shipped our manufacturing base off to China, we'd get cheaper goods. They lied about that. They said if we shipped our industrial base off to other countries, to Mexico and elsewhere, it would make the middle class stronger. They were wrong about that. They were wrong about the idea that if we made America less self-reliant, less productive in our own nation, that it would somehow make us better off, and they were wrong about it. And for the first time in a generation, Donald Trump had the wisdom and the courage to say to that bipartisan consensus, we're not doing it anymore. We're bringing American manufacturing back. We're unleashing American energy. We're going to make more of our own stuff. And this isn't just an economic issue. I have 3 beautiful little kids at home, 7, 4, and 2. And I love them very much. And I hope they're in bed right now. But look, so many of the drugs, the pharmaceuticals that we put in the bodies of our children are manufactured by nations that hate us.
I hope they're in bed right now.
Stop. And we're not going to stop it by listening to experts. We're going to stop it by listening to common sense sense wisdom, which is what Donald Trump governed on.
Senator, your time is up. Governor Walz, can you address that? I mean, voters say they trust Donald Trump on the economy more. Why?
If you're listening tonight and you want billionaires to get tax cuts, you heard what the numbers were. Look, I'm a union guy on this. I'm not a guy who wanted to ship things overseas, but I understand that we produce soybeans and corn. We need to have fair trading partners. That's something that we believe in. I think the thing that most concerns me on this is Donald Trump was the guy who created the largest trade deficit in American history with China. So the rhetoric is good. Much of what the senator said right there, I'm in agreement with him on this. I watched it happen too. I watched it to my communities, and we talked about that. But we had people undercutting the right to collectively bargain. We had right to work states made it more difficult. We had companies that were willing to ship it over, and we saw people profit. Folks that are venture capital in some cases, putting money into companies that were overseas. We're in agreement that we bring those home. The issue is Donald Trump is talking about it. Kamala Harris has a record, 250,000 more manufacturing jobs just out of the IRA.
That part.
Respond to that.
Yes.
So appreciate that. So if you
I know.
notice what Governor Walz just
So
did, he
T Lounge
first of
said,
all,
what
Donald
state
Trump
do you
has
live in,
listened to the
Reese, if you
experts.
don't mind me
And when we
asking?
acknowledge that the experts
And
are
Reese's
corrupt,
Cup
said,
says
well, Donald Trump
Connecticut,
didn't
I
do
pay
anything
more
on
in
the job as the snow
in
president of the
everything.
nation. So what
T
Walz
Lounge
is
said,
doing,
you
and
sure
I
do.
honestly, Tim, I think
Jeez.
you got a tough job here,
T
because
Lounge,
you've got to
that
play
part.
whack-a-mole. You've got to
And Reese's
pretend
Cup
that
said,
Donald
I do
Trump
not
didn't
want
deliver
that
rising
that
take-home pay,
man
which he
felon
also
back in
did.
office.
You've got to pretend that Donald Trump
That
didn't
man is
deliver
the Project
legislation,
2025.
which of course
I
he did.
already didn't like him,
You
but that
simultaneously
Project
got to defend
2025,
Kamala
I'm
Harris's
not a
budget.
scaredy
She's got a
cat
record
and all
of
this
just
stuff the
making gas,
Republicans are talking
groceries,
about.
housing unaffordable
I've
for
read it.
American citizens.
I don't
I
like
was
it.
raised by a
And it
woman that
speaks
would sometimes go to medical debt
authoritism,
so that she could
right,
put
Andre?
food on the
Authoritism.
table in our house.
Authoritism.
I know
It
what
speaks
it's like to not be able to afford what we need to
enslavement.
afford. We can do so
You know,
much
we
better
know that
together.
language,
If you're
right?
watching, we can get back to
All
our
of us,
ability
of all
to
colors
afford
over
it.
here,
We
we
just gotta get
understand
back to
that.
common sense economic principles.
Conversation on healthcare then.
Senator, Governor,
Please.
thank you. Margaret?
We have a lot to get to ahead, gentlemen, on many topics. But right now, I
Yeah,
want
they
to
didn't
talk
put him
about
on mute. They
personal
should have done that.
qualifications. The vice president is often the last voice the president hears before making consequential decisions. We want to ask you about your leadership qualities. Governor Walz, you said you were in Hong Kong during the deadly Tiananmen Square protests in the spring of 1989. But Minnesota Public Radio and other media outlets are reporting that you actually didn't travel to Asia until August of that year.
Oh boy, here we go.
Can you explain that discrepancy?
Yeah, well, and to the folks out there who didn't get at the top of this, look, I grew up in small rural Nebraska, town of 400, town that you rode your bike with your buddies till the street lights come on, and I'm proud of that service. I joined the National Guard at 17, worked on family farms, and then I used the GI Bill to become a teacher, passionate about it, a young teacher. My first year out, I got the opportunity in the summer of '89 to travel to China. 35 years ago, be able to do that. I came back home and then started a program to take young people there. We would take basketball teams, we would take baseball teams, we would take dancers, and we would go back and forth to China. The issue for that was to try and learn. Now, look, my community knows who I am. They saw where I was at. Look, I will be the first to tell you, I have poured my heart into my community. I've tried to do the best I can, but I've not been perfect. And I'm a knucklehead at times, but it's always been about that. Those same people elected me to Congress for 12 years. And in Congress, I was one of the
Okay, T Lounge, thanks for stopping by. And thank you for your support.
And then the people of Minnesota were able to elect me to governor twice. So look, my commitment has been from the beginning to make sure that I'm there for the people.
T Lounge said that's my concern.
I will say more than anything. Many times I will talk a lot. I will get caught up in the rhetoric. But being there, the impact it made, the difference it made in my life.
T Lounge said that's my concern. That's where my concern comes from. With the Democrats' stance on the migrant issue. It's a way bigger issue for voters than I think they give credit for.
He wouldn't start a trade war that he ends up losing.
And then
So
Reese says,
it's
good
about
night,
trying
T
to
Lounge.
Understand the world. It's about trying to do the best you can for your community. And then it's putting yourself out there and letting your folks understand what it is. My commitment, whether it be through teaching, which I was good at.
The debate is actually on my TV. Yes, Asia, we're going to get you to vote. Yes, yes, we are. Yes, we can. As a matter of fact, Asia, And New
It
York,
on this
there's a
website,
mayor
I
there,
said
right?
and misspoke.
That is
This
under
my
investigation
That's what I've
for
said.
doing some really shady things.
So
You
I was
got, really, I know it gets
Hong Kong and
frustrating,
China during
and
the
I know
democracy
it's a
protests.
pain in the ass,
And
but
from
these
that, I
people
learned a
are
lot
in charge
about
making
what needed to be in
decisions
governance.
for our destiny. And
Thank you, Governor.
we have to
Senator
really
Vance, in 2016,
use
you called
our
your running mate,
privilege
Donald Trump,
to
unfit
have
for the
some kind of
nation's
control,
highest office, and you said
because
he could be America's Hitler.
it does help
I know
us
you've said, you've been asked many times,
when it
you've
comes
said
with
you've been right
anxiety.
those
It gives
comments
us some kind of
and explained
control.
you then voted for
You
Donald
know,
Trump in 2020.
it does, because
But
we
the
have to
Washington Post reported
we have to
messages
use our
last week in which
rights,
you
right?
also disparaged
Even there
Trump's
could be a lot of
economic
people
record
around
when he
us
was president.
might say they're
Writing to
not.
someone
You
in
could be that one
2020,
say I
quote,
am.
Trump thoroughly failed
You
to
know,
deliver
and
his
I'll give
economic
you some
populism.
tips.
You're now his
But that's
running mate,
politics.
and you've shifted many of your policy stances to align with his. If you become vice president, why should Americans trust that you will give Donald Trump the advice he needs to hear and not just the advice he wants to hear? You have 2 minutes.
Well, first of all, Margaret, because I've always been open. And sometimes, of course, I've disagreed with the president, but I've also been extremely open about the fact that I was wrong about Donald Trump. I was wrong, first of all, because I believed some of the media stories that turned out to be dishonest fabrications of his record. But most importantly, Donald Trump delivered for the American people. Rising wages, rising take-home pay, an economy that worked for normal Americans, a secure southern border, a lot of things, frankly, that I didn't think he'd be able to deliver on. And yeah, when you screw up, when you misspeak, when you get something wrong and you change your mind, you ought to be honest with the American people about one of the reasons why I've done so many interviews is because I think it's important to actually explain to the American people where I come down on the issues and what changed. Now, you pointed out some messages from 2020. Margaret, I've been extremely consistent that I think there were a lot of things that we could have done better in the Trump administration the first round if Congress was doing its job. I strongly believe, and I've been a United States Senator, that Congress is not just a high-class debating society. It's not just a forum for senators and congressmen to whine about problems. It's a forum to govern. So there were a lot of things on the border, on tariffs, for example, where I think that we could have done so much more if the Republican Congress and the Democrats in Congress had been a little bit better about how they govern the country. They were so obsessed with impeaching Donald Trump, they couldn't actually govern. I want to talk about this tariff issue in particular, Margaret, because Tim just accused this of being a national sales tax. Look, the one thing, and you're probably surprised to hear me praising Joe Biden, but the one thing that Joe Biden did is he continued some of the Trump tariffs that protected American manufacturing.
Praising Joe Biden.
What
a stupid
tactic.
tactic.
It's the one issue where Kamala Harris
He's vice president.
from Joe Biden.
I mean, if
think about
he's running for vice president, that means he has no pull, and Trump is going to whip his ass around that White House. He's not going to win, but I'm just saying.
Unless our country stands up for itself and says, you're not accessing our markets unless you're paying middle-class Americans a fair wage.
Senator, your time is up. Nora? Thank you. Now to the issue of reproductive rights. Governor Walz, after Roe versus Wade was overturned, you signed a bill into law that made Minnesota one of the least restrictive states in the nation when it comes to abortion. Former President Trump said in the last debate that you believe abortion, quote, in the 9th month is absolutely fine. Yes or no? Is that what you support? I'll give you 2 minutes.
That's not what the bill says, but look, this issue is what's on everyone's mind.
He goes, that's not what the bill says. Where the hell she get her question from?
It was that he put the judges in and overturned Roe versus Wade, 52 years of personal autonomy. And then he tells us, send it to the states. It's a beautiful thing. Amanda Zaworski would disagree with you on it's a beautiful thing. A young bride in Texas waiting.
Why
for
did
her
she
child
say
for
that?
18 weeks. She has a complication, a tear in the membrane.
You heard what she
needs to
said?
go in. The medical care
That in the
at
laws he
point needs to
passed
be
in his
decided by the
state,
doctor.
that he
And
passed it
would have
that
been
it's okay to get an
but
abortion
in
at
Texas,
9
that
months
would have
old.
put them in legal jeopardy. She went home, got sepsis, nearly dies, and now she may have difficulty having children. Or in Kentucky, Hadley Duvall, a 12-year-old child, raped and impregnated by her stepfather. Those are horrific. Now, when God asked about that, Senator Vance said, 2 wrongs don't make a right. There is no right in this. So in Minnesota, what we did was restore Roe versus Wade. We made sure that we put women in charge of their health care. But look, this is not where, if you don't know Amanda or a Hadley, you soon will. Their Project 2025 is going to have a registry. possible to get contraception and limit access, if not eliminate access to infertility treatments. For so many of you out there listening, me included, infertility treatments are why I have a child. That's nobody else's business.
Right.
But those things are being proposed.
Mm-hmm.
And the catch-all on this is, well, the states will decide what's right for Texas might not be right for Washington. That's not how this works.
Right.
This is basic human right. We have seen maternal mortality skyrocket in Texas, outpacing many other countries in the world. This is about healthcare. In Minnesota, we are ranked first in healthcare for a reason. We trust women. We trust doctors.
Senator, do you want to respond to the governor's claim? Will you create a federal pregnancy monitoring agency?
No, Nora, certainly we won't. And I want to talk about this issue because I know a lot of Americans care about it. I know a lot of Americans don't agree with everything that I've ever said on this topic. And, you know, I grew up in a working class family in a neighborhood where I knew a lot of young women who had unplanned pregnancies and decided to terminate those pregnancies because they feel like they didn't have any other options. And, you know, it's very dear to me. And I know she's watching tonight, and I love you. And she told me something a couple years ago that she felt like if she hadn't had that abortion, that it would have destroyed her life because she was in an abusive relationship. And I think that what I take from that as a Republican who proudly wants to protect innocent life in this country, who proudly wants to protect the vulnerable, is that my party, we've got to do so much better of a job at earning the American people's trust back on this issue where they frankly just don't trust us. And I think that's one of the things that Donald Trump and I are endeavoring to do. I want us as a Republican Party to be pro-family in the fullest sense of the word. I want us to support fertility treatments. I want us to make it easier for moms to afford to have babies. I want it to make it easier for young families to afford a home so they can afford a place to raise that family. And I think there's so much that we can do on the public policy front just to give women more options. Now, of course, Donald Trump has been very clear that on the abortion policy specifically, that we have a big country and it's diverse. And California has a different viewpoint on this than Georgia. Georgia has a different viewpoint from Arizona.
Is his time not up yet? My God.
As messy as democracy sometimes is to let voters make these decisions, let the individual states make their abortion policy. And I think that's what makes the most sense in a very big, a very diverse, and let's be honest, sometimes a very, very messy and divided country.
Governor, would you like to respond and also answer the question about restrictions?
Yeah, well, the question got asked when Donald Trump made the accusation that wasn't true about Minnesota. Well, let me tell you about this idea that there's diverse states. There's a young woman named Amber Thurman. She happened to be in Georgia, a restrictive state. Because of that, she had to travel a long distance to North Carolina to try and get her care. Amber Thurman died in that journey back and forth. But the fact of the matter is, how can we as a nation say that your life and your rights, as basic as the right to control your own body, is determined on geography? There's a very real chance had Amber Thurman lived in Minnesota, she would be alive today. That's why the restoration of Roe versus Wade. When you listen to Vice President Harris talk about this subject and you hear me talk about it, you hear us talking exactly the same. Donald Trump is trying to figure out how to get the political right of this. I agree with a lot of what Senator Vance said about what's happening. His running mate, though, does not, and that's the problem.
Governor, your time is up.
That's a
Senator,
good
let me ask
one.
you about that. He mentioned, it was, I think, referring to a national ban. In the past, you have supported a federal ban on abortion after 15 weeks. In fact, you said if someone can't support legislation like that, quote, you are making the United States the most barbaric pro-abortion regime anywhere in the entire world. My question is, why have you changed your position?
Well, Nora, first of all, I never supported a national ban. I did, during when I was running for Senate in 2022, talk about setting some minimum national standard. For example, we have a partial birth abortion ban in place in this country at the federal level. I don't think anybody's trying to get rid of that, or at least I hope not, though I know that Democrats have taken a very radical pro-abortion stance. But Nora, you know, one of the things that changed is in the state of Ohio, we had a referendum in 2023, and the people of Ohio voted overwhelmingly, by the way, against my position. And I think that what I learned from that, Nora, is that we've got to do a better job at winning back people's trust. So many young women would love to have have families. So many young women also see an unplanned pregnancy as something that's going to destroy their livelihood, destroy their education, destroy their relationships. And we have got to earn people's trust back. And that's why Donald Trump and I are committed to pursuing pro-family policies, making childcare more accessible, making fertility treatments more accessible.
He's not running for president.
Job at that, and that's what real leadership is.
Governor,
He is not running for president.
On the pro-abortion piece of that. No, we're not. We're pro-women. We're pro-freedom to make your own choice. We
Come
know
on,
what
me.
the implications are to not be that. Women having miscarriages, women not getting the care, physicians feeling like they may be prosecuted for providing that care.
Okay.
And as far as making sure that we're educating our children and giving them options, Minnesota's a state with the
I love
lowest
you.
pregnancy rates.
Thank you so
We
much.
understand that too. We know that the options need to be available,
Okay.
and we make that
Andre's
choice.
going to
We
sleep. He
also
said,
make
good night,
it up to the
everybody.
state for the best place to raise children. But these two things to try and say that we're pro-children, but we don't like this, or you guys are pro-abortion, that's not the case at all. We are pro-freedoms for women to make their choices, and we're going, and Kamala Harris is making the case, to make options for children more affordable, a $6,000 child tax credit, but we're not going to base that on the backs of making someone like Amber Thurman drive 600 miles to try and get health care.
Senator.
May I respond to that? First of all, Governor, I agree with you. Amber Thurman should still be alive, and there are a lot of people who should still be alive, and I certainly wish that she was. And maybe you're free to disagree with me on this and explain this to me, but as I read the
Reese's
Minnesota law,
cup said goodnight.
into law, the statute
Thank
being
you.
signed into law, it says that a doctor who presides over an abortion where the baby survives, the doctor is under no obligation to provide life-saving care to a baby who survives a botched late-term abortion. That is, I think,
That's
whether
not
you're pro-choice or
That's not how it
pro-abortion,
was.
that is fundamentally barbaric. And that's why I use that word, Nora, is because some of what we've seen, do you want to force Catholic hospitals to perform abortions against their will? Because Kamala Harris has supported suing Catholic nuns to violate their freedom of conscience. We can be a big and diverse country where we respect people's freedom of conscience and make the country more pro-baby and pro-family. But please.
Yes, Governor, please respond.
Look, this is one where there's always something that this is a very simple proposition. These are women's decisions to make about their healthcare decisions, and the physicians who know best when they need to do this. Trying to distort the way a law is written to try and make a point, that's not it at all.
What was I wrong about, Governor? Please tell me, what was I wrong
That is
about?
not the way the law is written. Look, I've given I've given this advice on a lot of things, that getting involved, getting against, that's been misread. It was fact-checked at the last debate. But the point on this is there's a continuation of these guys to try and tell women.
Go ahead.
I use this line on this, just mind your own business. On this,
Right.
Things work best when Roe versus Wade was
Mind
in
your
place.
damn
When
business.
you do a restoration of Roe, that works best. That doesn't preclude us from increasing funding for children. It doesn't increase us from making sure that once that child's born, like in Minnesota, they get meals, they get early childhood education, they get health care. So that hiding behind we're going to do all these other things when you're not proposing them in your budget. Kamala Harris is proposing them. She's proposing all those things to make life easier for families.
I asked a specific question, Governor. You gave me a slogan as a response.
It's not the case. It's not true. That's not what the law says. So they fact-checked it with President Trump.
Right.
There's a lot to discuss.
Get
We
at
have
him.
to move on, and we're going to be right back with much more of the CBS News vice presidential debate in just a moment.
Wow.
This PBS News
This
presentation
particular
is made possible
debate,
by
it's different,
Consumer
of
Cellular,
course,
this is Sam. How may I help you?
from the one with
This is
Trump,
Dial.
right?
Well, somebody's
The
pocket.
vice
Thought I'd let you know
presidential
that Consumer
debate
Cellular, you get
is
nationwide
different
coverage with
than
no
the
contract.
presidential
That's kind of our thing.
debate.
Have a nice day.
So, what's interesting
and by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by
is that
contributions
you
to
have
PBS
J.D.
station
Vance,
from viewers like you. Thank you.
who is over-promising a lot of things, when he is not the one that's going to be making any of those policy decisions.
On the News Hour tonight, the PBS
And
News Hour, your source for news
if
can
you
trust,
notice,
asking tough questions.
when
Do
they ask
Democrats
Trump a
supply their votes
question,
if it means avoiding a government shutdown? Well, right now,
and they'll say, J.D. Vance said, blah, blah, blah. Do you agree? And Trump will go, well, I'm trying to see how he worded it. He said something like, well, that's not what J.D. Vance meant. And this is what I'm going to do. right? So sometimes they're known for putting out there the lie because they feel, well, if they have a format to promote the lie, if they have a type of viewership that's high, like what Asia was saying, yes, this is a nationwide situation where it's going to be on every channel on TV because it's very, very important. This is about our country. It's about our country. So it's supposed to be on all the channels. And then what's interesting is that JD Vance is talking about like he's a president. Honey, Trump will not let him make any decisions. He'll be like a little punk ass in the corner, just like where the last Republican vice president was. He was just sitting there. And then, you had Trump, who put out there clearly, very clearly, to lynch Mike Pence, his vice president. So it is a technique that works. And the technique is very real. It's not trying to spook you or sneak a vote from you and con you into something because you're not feeling what the people are doing. It's really being mindful of whoever you are, your complexion or your culture. It's being very mindful of where you come from. It's being very mindful of how politics affect you, because everybody that's voted in, it affects you, whether it's rent going up. And again, Biden has nothing to do with the economy. A president has nothing to do with gas prices going high. The people who own goods and the sale of goods and the purchase of goods, those people are the ones who have full control over adjusting the economy to let it fall where it may be. And Wall Street is a form where they measure that for us. Racist Cup said Vance is pushing to get in that office because he wouldn't get there without the felon. Exactly. J.D. Vance ran for president against Trump. And during that time, he said a lot of anti things, even when he wasn't running for it. So the thing is, they flip-flop with the lies, and they're okay with that. They say, well, once you put the lie out there, because people, my favorite quote is that people rather believe in the lie because the lie makes them feel comfortable versus the truth, which makes people feel uncomfortable. Okay, let's put this back on. Look like we're back, and we're going to start this up again. I'm going to turn the volume up. Thank you all for your patience. We're going to get this party started again.
And legislation to ban certain semi-automatic rifles, including AR-15s. So let me ask you, earlier this year, for the first time, the parents of a school shooter were convicted of involuntary manslaughter and sentenced to 10 years in prison. Do you think holding parents responsible could curb mass shootings? I'll give you 2 minutes.
Yeah, well, Nora, on that particular case, I don't know the full details, but I certainly trust local law enforcement and local authorities to make those decisions. I think in some cases the answer is going to be yes, and in some cases the answer is going to be no. And the details really matter here, of course. For example, if a kid steals a gun, that's going to be different than if a parent hands over a gun knowing that their kid is potentially dangerous. But look, I want to just sort of speak as a father of 3 beautiful little kids, and our oldest is now in 2nd grade. And like a lot of parents, we send our kids to school with such hope and such joy and such pride at their little faces on the first day of school. And we know, unfortunately, that a lot of kids are going to experience this terrible epidemic of gun violence. And of course, our hearts go out to the families that are affected by this terrible stuff. And we do have to do better. And I think that Governor Walz and I actually probably agree that we need to do better on this. The question is, how do we actually do it? Now, here's something that really bothers me and worries me about this epidemic of violence. The gross majority, close to 90% in some of the statistics I've seen, of the gun violence in this country is committed with illegally obtained firearms. And while we're on that topic, we know that thanks to Kamala Harris's open border, we've seen a massive influx in the number of illegal guns run by the Mexican drug cartel. So that number, the amount of illegal guns in our country is higher today than it was 3.5 years ago. But what do we do about the schools? What do we do to protect our kids? And I think the answer is, and I say this not loving the answer, because I don't want my kids to go to school in a school that feels unsafe or where there are visible signs of security. But I unfortunately think that we have to increase security in our
lies,
schools.
lies,
The doors lock better. We have to make the doors stronger. We've got to make the windows stronger. And of course, we've got to increase school resource officers.
He's out there to put out the lie.
Magically wave a wand and take guns out of the hands
Hey,
of
Lady Libra,
what's
up? Lady Libra. Lady Libra, DC for Life is in the house. Shout out to my movie bestie.
Parents watching tonight, this is your biggest
Welcome.
I got a 17-year-old, and he witnessed a shooting at a community center playing volleyball. Those things don't leave you. As a member of Congress, I sat in my office surrounded by dozens of the Sandy Hook parents, and they were looking at my 7-year-old picture on the wall. Their 7-year-old were dead, and they were asking us to do something. And look, I'm a hunter. I own firearms. The vice president is. We understand that the Second Amendment is there, but our first responsibility is to our kids to figure this out. In Minnesota, we've enacted enhanced red flag laws, enhanced background checks, and we can start to get data. But here's the problem. If we really want to solve this, we've got folks that won't allow research to be even done on gun violence. And this idea that we should just live with it, and I here's what I do think, that this is a good start to the conversation. I 100% believe that Senator Vance hates it when these kids, it's abhorrent and it breaks your heart. I agree with that. But that's not far enough. Well, we know there are things that work. I've spent time in Finland and seen some Finnish schools. They don't have this head, even though they have a high gun ownership rate in the country. There are reasonable things that we can do to make a difference. It's not infringing on your Second Amendment. And the idea to have some of these weapons out there, it just doesn't make any sense. Kamala Harris, as an attorney general, worked on this issue. She knows that it's there. No one's trying to scaremonger and say we're taking your guns, but I ask all of you out there, do you want your schools hardened to look like a fort? Is that what we have to go? When we know there's countries around the world that their children aren't practicing these types of drills. They're being kids. We owe it to them to get a fix. These are things that shouldn't be that difficult. You can still keep your firearms, and we can make a difference. We have to. If you're listening tonight, this breaks your heart.
Senator?
Tim, first of all, I didn't know 18-year-old witness a shooting. I'm sorry about that. I appreciate it. Okay, Christ have mercy. It is awful.
JD Vance is full of shit.
About Finland demonstrates some of the frankly weird differences between our own country's gun violence problem and Finland. Is first of all, we have way higher rates of mental health abuse or mental health substance abuse. We have way higher rates of depression, way higher rates of anxiety. We unfortunately have a mental health crisis in this country that I really do think that we need to get to the root causes of, because I don't think it's the whole reason why we have such a bad gun violence problem, but I do think it's a big piece of it. Another driver of the gun violence epidemic, especially that affecting our kids, it doesn't earn as many headlines, but is the terrible gun violence problem in a lot of our big cities. And this is why we have to empower law enforcement to arrest the bad guys, put them away, and take gun offenders off the streets. I think it's a whole host of things that we can do here, but I do think at our schools we've got to talk about more security.
Senator, thank you. Governor, you previously opposed an assault weapons ban, but only later in your political career did you change your position. Why?
Yeah, I sat in that office with those Sandy Hook parents. I've become friends with school shooters. I've seen it. Look, the NRA, I was an NRA guy for a long time. They used to teach gun safety. I'm of an age where my shotgun was in my car so I could visit on after football practice. That's not where we live today. And several things I want to mention on this is talking about cities and where it's at. The number one where the most firearm deaths happen in Minnesota are rural suicides. And we have an epidemic of children getting guns and shooting themselves. And so we have, and we should look at all of the issues. Making sure folks have health care and all that, but I want to be very careful. This idea of stigmatizing mental health, just because you have a mental health issue doesn't mean you're violent. And I think what we end up doing is we start looking for a scapegoat. Sometimes it just is the guns. It's just the guns.
Yeah.
And there are things that you can do about it. But I do think that this is one, and I think this is a healthy conversation. I think there's a
Lola is here too. She's watching the WNBA, but she's here.
Protect her children.
And T Lounge, I think she stepped away. Jeff Lee went to sleep.
Let's turn now to the top contributor to inflation, the high cost of housing and rent. There's a shortage of more than 4 million homes in the United States, and that contributes to the high housing prices. Governor Walz, the Harris campaign promises a $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers and a $10,000 tax credit. They also promise to build 3 million new homes. Where are you building these homes, and won't handing out that kind of money just drive up prices higher?
No, it's not handing out. First, let me say this.
You spend and invest. And when you invest, it helps the economy. It creates green-ready jobs, contractors, electricians, plumbers, cement companies.
Folks living in those houses. Those of you listening tonight, that house is a big deal. I bought and owned one house in my life. My mom still lives in the house where I was. And when I think of a house, I'm thinking of Christmas services after midnight mass where you go with your family. We need to make it more affordable. And one of the things, as I said, this program that
Thank you, Lady Libra.
pushing forward and bringing it.
Yeah, I took it down.
Is something we're doing in Minnesota.
And thank you so much. I usually have it always braided up.
Investment that we'd ever made in housing. It starts to make it easier. We cut some of the red tape. Local folks, look.
Thank
you.
you.
Federal level, but local folks make it easier to build those homes. And then that down payment assistance. I can tell all of you out there, one of the, certainly for me, using the GI Bill was one thing, but a veteran's home loan, the big thing about a veteran's home loan is you don't have to pay the down payment. Those are things that make it there. Now, look, you're going to pay it back, and you're going to pay your mortgage. Those are things that we know in the long run, the appreciated value, the generational wealth that's created from it. And I will give Minneapolis an example. Minneapolis is the one city where we've seen the lowest inflation rates. We've seen a 12% increase in stock because we put some of these things in, and we're implementing a state program to make sure we give some of that down payment assistance. We get it back from people because here's what we know. People with stable housing end up with stable jobs. People with stable housing have their kids able to get to school. All of those things in the long run end up saving our money. And that's the thing that I think we should be able to find some common ground in. But
It's okay. It's okay. There's always the replay, but it gets more heated as this is the second half of it.
Have enough naturally affordable housing, but we can make sure that the government's there to help kickstart it, create that base.
Governor, your time is up. Senator Vance, as far as your campaign's position, the promise is to seize federal lands to build homes, remove regulation, provide tax breaks, and cut back on immigration, which you say pushes up prices. Where are you going to build all the new homes you're promising, and what part of any of this plan will provide immediate relief? You have 2 minutes.
Well, first of all, Tim just said something that I agree with. We don't want to blame immigrants for higher housing prices, but we do want to blame Kamala Harris for letting in millions of illegal aliens into this country.
She had nothing to do with that.
Cost him 25 million illegal aliens. Competing with Americans for scarce homes is one of the most significant drivers of home prices in the country. It's why we have massive increases in home prices.
He's been doing really good.
Alongside massive increases.
JD Vance has a style about him that's believable, but he's not running for president. So everything JD Vance says, Trump is not going to follow him. So JD Vance is smooth. He's a smooth liar.
If she wants to enact all of these policies to make housing more affordable, I invite her to use
Walz, and I'm not trying to be biased, but Walz is specific. Yeah, he's specific. He's clear with messaging. Seize lands, the middle of the country should be very afraid. Well, you know, Project 2025, in it says taking the Native American land and drilling on their land.
To the job site to build a house is also going to become a lot more expensive. If we open up American energy, you will get immediate pricing relief for American citizens, not, by the way, just in housing, but in a whole host of other economic goods too.
Senator Vance, you still have 23 seconds there. Do you want to answer?
Can I have it?
Where, Governor, we will get to you in a moment, but Senator, where are you going to seize the federal lands? Can you clarify?
23 seconds. They let him
There's a
talk.
lot of federal lands that
They
aren't
didn't do
used
that
for
with.
anything. They're not being used for national
They didn't
parks.
have. They didn't do that
They
with
could be. This is
Walls.
where we build a lot of housing.
Give him more time when
We
he
should be opening up buildings
to let
in
him
this
know how
country.
much more time he had left. They didn't do that for
A lot of
Walls.
land
What's
that
the?
could be used. We have a lot of Americans that need homes. We should be kicking out illegal immigrants who are competing for those homes, and we should be building more homes for the American citizens who deserve to be here.
Senator, your time is up. Governor, I do want to let you respond to the allegation that the vice president is letting in
Of course, that's not
migrants.
true. And again,
that
you
it's
have the
affecting
facts. I guess we
housing
agreed not to fact check. I'll check it. Look, crossing compared to when Donald
See?
Trump was in office. But it's again.
So I guess we agreed not to fact check. He said, "I'll check
I
it."
was going to ask on this question.
See?
Are we going to drill and build houses in the same federal land? And I think when people hear federal lands, these are
See?
really important pieces of land. Now, Minnesota doesn't have a lot of federal lands. I know in the western part of the countries we do. There's not a lot of federal lands in and around Minneapolis, for example. So the issue is I don't understand the federal lands issue unless we see this, and I worry about this as someone who cares deeply about our national parks and our federal lands. Look, Minnesota, we protect these things. We've got about 20% of the world's fresh water. These lands protect. They're there for a reason. They belong to all of us. But again, this is when you view housing and you view these things as commodities. Like there's a chance to make money here. Let's take this federal land and let's sell it to people for that. I think there's better ways to do this. We've seen it in Minnesota. We're able to refurbish some of these houses. We're able to make some investments. That gets people in. And I'm still on the fact on this. Economists, Senator Vance, you said you don't like the economists. Which economists are saying that it is immigrants that's adding to the cost?
Governor, your time is.
Oh my God.
But Senator, on that point,
2025 is a dictator's plan for taking over the government.
What evidence do you have?
Exactly, says Reese's. Thank you, Lady Libra. Exactly.
There's a Federal Reserve study that we're happy to share after the debate. We'll put it up on social media, actually, that really drills down on the connection between increased levels of migration, especially illegal immigration, and higher housing prices. Now, of course, Margaret, that's not the entire driver of higher housing prices. It's also the regulatory regime of Kamala Harris. Look, we are a country of builders. We're a country of doers. We're a country of explorers. But we increasingly have a federal administration that makes it harder to develop our resources, makes it harder to build things, and wants to throw people in jail for not doing everything exactly as Kamala Harris says they have to do. And what that means is that you have a lot of people who would love to build homes who aren't able to build homes. I actually agree with Tim Walz. We should get out of this idea of housing as a commodity. But the thing that has most turned housing into a commodity is giving it away to millions upon millions of people who have no legal right to be here.
What are the federal regulations? I deal with this as a governor.
You can very quickly reply.
I'm sorry. I get this as a governor, and I don't necessarily disagree with that. That in some cases, many of those are local, many of them are state. I don't know which ones are federal, but I think whenever we talk regulations, people think they can get rid of them. I think you want to be able to get out of your house in a fire. I think you want to make sure that it's fireproof and those types of things. So which are the regulations? Because the vice president's not responsible for those. Congress.
Right.
Governor, thank you. Gentlemen, we have a lot to get to. You're passionate about the housing crisis, I can tell. But Nora?
Thank you. One of the top problems facing Americans is the high cost of health care. Senator Vance, at the last presidential debate, former President Trump was asked about replacing the Affordable Care Act. In response, he said, "I have concepts of a plan."
Right.
Since then, Senator, you've talked about changing how chronically ill Americans get health insurance. Can you explain how that would work? And can you guarantee that Americans with pre-existing conditions won't pay more? I'll give you 2 minutes.
Uh-oh.
Well, of course, we're going to cover Americans with pre-existing conditions. In fact, a lot
He's
of
not running for president.
I believe, members of my family actually got private health insurance, at least for the first time, switched off of Medicaid onto private insurance for the first time under Donald Trump's leadership. And I think that, a lot of people have criticized this concepts of a plan remark. It's very simple common sense. I think as Tim Walz knows from 12 years in Congress, you're not going to propose a 900-page bill standing on a debate stage. It would bore everybody to tears, and it wouldn't actually mean anything because part of this is the give and take of bipartisan negotiation. Now, when Donald Trump was actually president, and again, he has a record record to be proud of. Prescription drugs fell in 2018 for the first time in a very long time. Under Kamala Harris's leadership, prescription drugs are up about 7%. Under Donald Trump's entire 4 years, they were up about 1.5%. He introduced pricing transparency. Think about healthcare. You go into a hospital, you try to buy something, and nobody knows what it actually costs. That price transparency will actually give American consumers a little bit more choice and will also drive down costs.
He wears me out.
The reinsurance regulations is what I was talking about. Look, Donald Trump has said that if we allow states to experiment a little bit on how to cover both the chronically ill but the non-chronically ill, it's not just a plan. He actually implemented some of these regulations when he was president of the United States. And I think you can make a really good argument that it salvaged Obamacare, which was
Reese's Cup says lies, lies upon lies. Who would get off of Medicare to pay for medical benefits, right? I'm on Medicare. Hello. I'm on Medicare.
Under the weight of its own regulatory burden and healthcare costs, Donald Trump could have destroyed the program. Instead, he worked in a bipartisan way to ensure that Americans had access to affordable care. It's not perfect, of course, and there's so much more that we can do, but I think that Donald Trump has earned the right to put in place some better healthcare policies. He's earned it because he did it successfully the first time.
Governor?
All right, here's where being an old guy gives you some history. I was there at the creation of the ACA. And the reason it was so important is I come from a major healthcare state, home of the Mayo Clinic, home to Medical Alley, 3M, Medtronic, all of those. We understand healthcare. It's why we're ranked first on affordability and accessibility and quality of healthcare. And so what I know is under Kamala Harris, more people are covered than they have before. And those of you listening, this is critical to you. Now, Donald Trump all of a sudden wants you. Go back and remember this. He ran on the first thing he was going to do on day one was to repeal Obamacare. On day one, he tried to sign an executive order to repeal the ACA. He signed on to a lawsuit to repeal the ACA, but lost at the Supreme Court. And he would have repealed the ACA had it not been for the courage of John McCain to save that bill. Now, fast forward, what that means to you is you lose your pre-existing conditions. If you're sitting at home and you got asthma, too bad. If you're a woman, probably not. Broke your foot during football, might kick you out. Your kids get kicked out when they're 26. Kamala Harris negotiated drug prices for the first time with Medicare. We have 10 drugs that will come online, the most common ones that'll be there. But look, this issue, and when Donald Trump said, I got a concept of a plan, it cracked me up as a
right
teacher because my kids would have never given me that. But what Senator Vance just explained might be worse than a concept because what he explained is pre-Obamacare. And I'll make this as simple as possible because I have done this for a long time. What they're saying is if you're healthy, why should you be paying more? So what they're going to do is let insurance companies pick who they insure because guess what happens? You pay your premium, it's not much. They figure they're not going to have to pay out to you. But hey, got cancer, you're going to get kicked out of it. That's why the system didn't work. Kamala Harris will protect and enhance the ACA.
Governor, thank you. Senator, you have not yet explained how you would protect people with pre-existing conditions or laid out that plan.
Well, look, we currently have laws and regulations in place right now that protect people with pre-existing conditions. We want to keep those regulations in place, but we also want to make the health insurance marketplace function a little bit better. Now, what Governor Walz just said is actually not true. A lot of what happened and the reason that Obamacare was crushing under its own weight is that a lot of young and healthy people were leaving the exchanges. Donald Trump actually helped address that problem, and he did so in a way that preserved people's access to coverage who had pre-existing conditions. But again, something that guys do is they make a lot of claims about if Donald Trump becomes president, all of these terrible consequences are going to ensue. But in reality, Donald Trump was president, inflation was low, take-home pay was higher, and he saved the very program from a Democratic administration that was collapsing and would have collapsed absent his leadership. He did his job, which is govern in a bipartisan way and get results, not just complain about problems, but actually solve them.
Governor, did enrollment under the Affordable Care Act go up under the Trump administration?
It's higher now that we've seen it go up. Look, people are using it. The system works. And the question about this of young people or whatever, that's the individual mandate piece of this. And Republicans fought tooth and nail saying, well, Americans should be free to do this. Well,
so you think the individual mandate's a good idea?
I think the idea of making sure the risk pool is broad enough to cover everyone, that's the only way insurance works. When it doesn't, it collapses. You were asking pre-ACA where we get people out. Look, people know that they need to be on health care. People expect it to be there. And when we are able to make it, and we are making it this way, when we incentivize people to be in the market, when we help people who might not be able to afford it get there, and we make sure then when you get sick and old, it's there for you. Because I heard people say, well, I don't want to buy into Medicare or whatever. Good luck buying healthcare once you get past 70.
Right.
So look, the ACA works. We can continue to do better. Kamala Harris did that. The way she made everything better was negotiating those 10 drugs on Medicare for the first time in American history.
Thank you. Margaret?
Can I
We're-
address that?
I apologize. We're
No.
out of time. We have a number of subjects to discuss. Margaret?
Let's talk about families in America. There is a child care crisis
Sure.
in this country, and the United States is one of the very few developed countries in the world without a national paid leave program for new parents. Governor Walz, you said that if Democrats win both the White House and Congress, this is a day one priority for you. How long should employers be required to pay workers while they are home taking care of their newborns? You have 2 minutes.
Yeah, well, that's negotiable, and that's what Congress worked. But here's what the deal is. Americans sitting out there right now, you may work for
Hey,
a big
Bree
company
Guy.
in Minnesota to some of the largest
Hi,
workers'
Bree
companies.
Guy. Welcome.
Shows that in Colorado,
Good to see you.
Those companies provide paid family medical leave. One is, I think they're moral and they think it's a good thing, but it also keeps their employees healthy. We in Minnesota passed a paid family medical leave. You have a child, and I had to go back to work 5 days after my kids were born. This allows you to stay home a certain amount of
I
time.
went to
What we
work
know is
after
that
1
gets
week
child
having a
care started,
cesarean
family works
section.
better, we stay in
A
there, employers, we get
C-section.
bonuses
I
and
went
see that.
back to
So
work
Kamala
after
Harris has made
1
it a
week.
priority. We implemented it in Minnesota, and we see growth. That's how you become a pro-business state. But the negotiations on
Son
it,
of
and
80s
the
actor
issue,
Clayton Roner.
big companies are able to offer it. Those of you
Bree
out there
Guy says
who
J.D.
have it,
Vance looked like
just
he's the
imagine
long
what
lost
happens if
son
you
of the
get
80s
cancer
actor
or your child
Clayton
gets sick.
Roner.
We know what happens. You end up staying home. In some cases, that means no paycheck because you've got no protection on that. This is the case of an economy that Donald Trump has said for the wealthiest amongst us. He's willing to give those tax breaks to the wealthiest. He's willing to say, bust those unions up, do whatever. What we're saying is the economy works best when it works for all of us.
Yes,
And
Lady
so paid
Libra,
family
wow.
medical leave program, and I will tell you,
And
go
Bree
to
Guy said
the
he was in
families or
just
go to the businesses
one of the
and ask them.
guys.
As far as childcare on this, you have to take it at both the supply and the demand side. You can't expect the most important people in our lives to take care of our children or our parents to get paid the least amount of money. And we have to make it easier for folks to be able to get into that business and then to make sure that folks are able to pay for that. We were able to do it in Minnesota, and I'm still telling you this. We were listed as the best state. We're still in crisis on this. A federal program of paid family medical leave and help with this will enhance our workforce, enhance our families, and make it easier to have the children that you want.
Governor, your time is up. Senator, do you support a national paid leave program? And if so, for how long should employers be mandated to pay their employees while they are home taking care of their newborn? You have 2 minutes.
Yeah, well, first of all, Margaret, a number of my Republican colleagues and some Democrats, too, have worked on this issue. And I think there is a bipartisan solution here because a lot of us care about this issue. I mean, look, I speak from this very personally.
He's
because
stuttering.
I'm married to a beautiful
We got him in the
woman,
corner.
an incredible mother to our 3 beautiful kids, but is also a very, very brilliant corporate litigator. And I'm so proud of her. But being a working mom, even for somebody with all of the advantages of my wife, is extraordinarily difficult. And it's not just difficult from a policy perspective. She actually had access to paid family leave because she worked for a bigger company. But the cultural pressure
Exactly.
on families, and especially
Exactly,
young women,
Reese's.
I think
I
makes
was
it
thinking
really
a
hard for them
demon
to
in a
choose the family
suit.
model they want. A lot of young women would like to go back to work immediately. Some would like to spend a little time home with the kids. Some would like to spend longer at home with the kids. We should have a family care model that makes choice possible. And I think this is a very important substantive difference between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris's approach. I mean, look, if you look at the federal programs that we have that support paid family leave right now, the Community Development Block Grant, and there's another block grant program that spends a lot of money from the federal government. These programs only go to one kind of child care model. Let's say you'd like your church, maybe you live in in a rural area or an urban
He's
area, and
just
you'd like to get together
deflecting.
with families in your neighborhood to provide childcare in the way that makes the most sense. You don't get access to any of these federal monies. We want to promote choice in how we deliver family care and how we promote childcare, because look, it is unacceptable. And, of course, Tim and I have been on the campaign trail a lot the past 7 or 8 weeks. And one of the biggest complaints I hear from young families is people who feel like they don't have options, like they're choosing between going to work or taking care for their kids. That is an incredible burden to put on American families. We're the only country that does it. I think we could do a heck of a lot better.
Senator, thank you. You have also said, Senator Vance, many things about the American family.
Is he using his wife as an example? I doubt his wife was suffering. He has an income, Reese's Cup says. You all right? Right?
On this. President Trump recently said, as much as childcare is talked about as being expensive, it's relatively speaking not very expensive compared to the kinds of numbers we'll be taking in. Is President Trump committed to the $5,000 per child tax credit that you have described? You have 1 minute.
Well, what President Trump said, Margaret, I just want to defend my running mate here a little bit, is that we're going to be taking in a lot of money.
Defend my running mate? Oh, he's talking about Trump.
Okay. And penalizing countries who employ slave laborers and then ship their products back into our country and undercut the wages of American workers. It's the heart of the Donald Trump economic plan. Cut taxes for American workers and American families. Cut taxes for businesses that are hiring and building companies in the United States of America, but penalize companies and countries that are shipping jobs overseas. That's the heart of the economic proposal. And I think what President Trump is saying is that when we bring in this additional revenue with higher economic growth, we're going to be able to provide paid family leave, child care options that are viable and workable for a lot of American families.
Can you clarify how that will solve the child care shortage?
Well, because as Tim said, a lot of the child care shortage is we just don't have enough resources going into the multiple people who could be providing family care options.
Andre went to bed.
Unfortunately, look, we're going to have to spend more money. We're going to have to induce more people.
It's time to party.
It's so expensive right now is because you've got way too few people providing this very essential service.
Thank you, Senator. Governor Walz, your ticket also has some child care tax credit proposals. Do you think Congress will agree to the $6,000 credit for newborns and $3,000 credit for children over the age of 6?
It's time to party. Come on, baby, get on it. Come on, Lady Libra.
Anybody, I can tell you, and this is the biggest issue. Everybody listening tonight knows. I mean, I'm sure they were shocked to hear it's not that expensive. And let's be clear, whether it's 5,000 or 6,000, that leaves you about 3 or 4 months. Let's be clear of where we're at on this. It's because we got out of an imbalance on this. We thought we were going to get by not paying people. I don't think Senator Vance and I are that far apart. I'm not opposed to what he's talking about on options. We've done scholarship types of things. I think we need to be open to making the case. But the issue here is, the question you asked is, you're not going to pay for it with these tariffs. That's
She's
just
like that.
Another $4,000 on the family.
That B cat.
So not only do they not get the money to pay for that, they're $4,000 in
It's chocolate chip.
That's his alma
Here she
mater.
comes
And
again.
So I think the issue here is, if those members of Congress,
She wears me out with her love.
When I go to businesses, sure, they'll talk about taxes sometime, but they will lead with childcare and they will lead with housing, because we know the problem is, especially in a state like Minnesota, we need more workers because our economy is growing, but we need the workforce.
Governor, thank you. We need to move on. Nora?
Let's talk about the state of democracy, the top issue for Americans after
Democracy.
the economy and inflation. After the 2020 election, President Trump's campaign and others filed 62 lawsuits contesting the results. Judges, including those appointed by President Trump and other Republican presidents,
very aggressively loving,
and said there was no widespread fraud. The governors of every state in the nation, Republican, were January 6th. Senator Vance, you have said
Here we go. Here's the question.
the last presidential election and would have asked the states to submit alternative electors. That has been called unconstitutional and illegal. Would you again seek to challenge this year's election results, even if every governor certifies the results? I'll give you 2 minutes.
Here we go.
Laura, first of all, I think that we're focused on the future. We need to figure out how to solve.
He's not answering the question.
Policies, make housing affordable, make grocery groceries affordable, and that's what we're focused on. But I want to answer your question because you did ask it. Look, what President Trump has said is that there were problems in 2020, and my own belief is that we should fight about those issues, debate those issues peacefully in the public square, and that's all I've said, and that's all that Donald Trump has said. Remember, he said that on January the 6th, the protesters would protest peacefully, and on January the 20th, what happened?
The truth is, y'all, if that was black people on January the 6th, trust me, they would have dropped a freak.
It's not the threat to democracy that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz want to talk about. It is the threat of censorship. It's Americans casting aside lifelong friendships because of disagreements over politics. It's big technology companies silencing their fellow citizens. And it's Kamala Harris saying that rather than debate and persuade her fellow Americans, she'd like to censor people who engage in misinformation. I think that is a much bigger threat to democracy than anything that we've seen in this country in the last 4 years, in the last 40 years.
Lady Libra said, you know it. For real. Did you see them fools? Oh, my God.
Lifelong leaders in the Democratic coalition. And of course, they don't agree with me and Donald Trump on every
I'm going to have a show after this ends, and I'm going to be playing a watch party about January 6th. It's a movie of facts. It's a movie of facts that I'm going to be airing right after this. It's a movie of facts as to what went down on January 6th and never before seen footage. So you're going to see that being scheduled tonight whenever this is over. I'm going to go live again tonight featuring that watch party for what happened January the 6th. Never before seen footage. It's interesting. Bree Guy says, I still can't believe J.D. Vance thinks Haiti is a country. He doesn't care to get facts right when it comes to people that he doesn't give a damn about. He doesn't want to pronounce Kamala's name correctly. He calls her Kamala, and it's Kamala. He doesn't care. You know, Bree Guy, welcome everybody. Shout out to Mrs. Cup, Lady Libra, Lola. Oh, Hadia. Okay.
Sometimes you really want to win, but the democracy is bigger than winning an election. You shake hands, and then
I see you, Bree Guy.
To help the other side. What's at stake here? Now, the thing I'm most concerned about is the idea that imprisoning your political opponents, already laying the groundwork for people not accepting this. And a president's words matter. A president's words matter. People hear that. So,
hey, Mike Aldana.
Of settling our differences at the ballot box.
Thank you, Mike. Welcome so much. I will be going live after this one with a show that shows. Hey, Sha. Okay. Hey, Sha. Thank you, Bree Guy. Which is going to be a show about what happened January the 6th. Never before seen footage. I'm going live in a different video.
First of all, it's really rich for Democratic leaders to say that Donald Trump is a unique threat to democracy when he peacefully gave up power on January the 20th, as we have done for 250 years in this country. We are going to shake hands after this debate and after this election. And of course, I hope that we win, and I think we're going to win. But if Tim Walz is the next vice president, he'll have my prayers, he'll have my best wishes, and he'll have my help whenever he wants it.
Oh! You heard what J.D. Vance said. I don't think he was told to say that.
Said that Donald Trump had the
oh my
God.
God.
By Vladimir Putin because the Russians bought like $500,000 worth of Facebook ads. This has been going on for a long time. And if we want to say that we need to respect the results of the election, I'm on board. But if we want to say, as Tim Walz is saying, that this is just a problem that Republicans have had, I don't buy that.
Governor.
He's a silver-tongued devil, isn't he?
And I think revisionist history on this. Look, I don't understand how we got to this point. But the issue was that happened. Trump, can you do it? And all of us say there's no place for this. It has massive repercussions. This idea that there's censorship to stop people from doing
It's Pappy and the weird guy.
That's not
I'm trying to get some more information on this live that I'm going to be doing in another video after
I
this.
just think for everyone tonight, and I'm going to thank
I'm thinking,
Senator
Mike, you
Vance.
just made it
I
home.
think
Welcome
this is the
home,
conversation
honey.
they wanted to hear. And I think
Welcome
there's a lot of
home.
agreement that this is one that we are miles apart on. This was a threat to our democracy in a way that we had not seen. And it manifested itself because of Donald Trump's inability to say, he is still saying he didn't lose the election. I would just ask, did he lose the 2020 election?
Tim, I'm focused on the future. Did Kamala Harris censor Americans from speaking their mind in the wake of the 2020 COVID situation?
That is a damning non-answer.
It's a damning non-answer for you to talk about censorship. Obviously, Donald Trump and I think that there were problems in 2020.
Why didn't letting him talk?
I'm happy to talk about it further, but you guys attack us for not believing in democracy. The most sacred right under the United States democracy is the First Amendment. You yourself have said there's no First Amendment right to misinformation. Kamala Harris wants to threaten the power of government and big tech to silence people from speaking their minds. That is a threat to democracy that will long outlive this present political.
Why they give him so much time?
Censorship. Let's persuade one another. Let's argue about ideas, and then let's come together afterwards.
You can't yell fire in a crowded theater. That's the test. That's the Supreme Court test.
Tim, fire in a crowded theater. You guys wanted to kick people off of Facebook for saying that toddlers should
Senator,
wear
the governor
masks.
does
That's
have
not
the floor.
Fire in a crowded theater. That is
He's still
criticizing
talking.
policies of the government, which is the right of every American.
Senator, the governor does have the floor for 1 minute. Please.
They didn't mute his mic.
I
Oh,
don't
sorry.
like Facebook. What I do
I'm
know
holding the
is
mic.
I see a candidate out there who refused, and now again, and this, I'm pretty shocked by this. He lost the election. This is not a debate. It's not anything anywhere other than in Donald Trump's world. Because look, when Mike Pence made that decision to certify that election, that's why Mike Pence isn't on this stage. What I'm concerned about is, where is the firewall with Donald Trump? Where is the firewall if he knows he can do anything, including taking an election, and his vice president's not going to stand to it? That's what we're asking you, America. Will you stand up? Will you keep your oath of office, even if the president doesn't? And I think Kamala Harris would agree. She wouldn't have picked me if she didn't think I would do that.
Right.
Because, of course, that's what we would do. So, America, I think you've got a really clear choice on this election of who's going to honor that democracy and who's going to honor Donald Trump.
Governor, your time is up. Thank you, gentlemen. We will be right back with both of our candidates. The CBS News Vice
Okay,
Presidential
everybody.
debate continues.
Right? Potty break. I need to go take I gotta go powder my nose. I'm trying to find the exact name of what I'm going to go live for in just a minute. I got to hurry up.
This is a pocket dial. Well, somebody's pocket.
I have one heck of a playlist, y'all. I'm very organized, and
That's kind of our thing.
I wish this can be set under alphabetical order, but it can't.
And by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, and by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you. Asking tough questions to those in power.
Should Democrats supply their votes if it means avoiding a government shutdown?
Russia right now has you outmanned, outgunned. Is it time to think about this?
Okay, everybody, I see you all in chat room. Thank you. I'm going to take a pot. I'm going to go powder my nose. Reese's Cup, howdy, my Steelers sister. Yes, I'm having black cherry ice cream. Ooh, yummy. And Reese's Cup, she's a Steelers fan. We're going to be playing the Steelers too. I'm going to run to the powder room. I'm trying to get out of my chair. She's the enemy this week. Just joking.
The influence of Leonardo's vision was enormous.
Okay, I'll be right back. I have to get out of my little corner. I'm in my little corner.
So much anticipation.
My heart's beating.
This is a breakthrough moment, and it won't be the last.
Linus's got the big bad careful here.
What we've learned about weather on other planets has rewritten what was possible.
I'll be right back.
These series are the beginning of the modern world.
You were my number one suspect. Glad to hear it.
You think you know a little more than you're telling us?
Just build up the tension even more.
If you insist.
All I've got to do is get to tear me apart.
You helped us get to the truth.
Whatever happened here, it wasn't what we think. We're searching for a killer.
Any trap, a trial. There's got to be a connection.
Sherlock Holmes is the world's most famous detective. But why didn't this creator, Arthur Conan, love him as much as the rest of us do? In this series, I'm putting down clues and evaluating the evidence to discover where creator and creation diverge. I'm hoping to open a little window into Arthur's mind.
Did I make it back? Hi.
We report the facts. We find clarity. PBS is here, delivering the credible, reliable, thoughtful election coverage you need to make informed decisions. PBS, your trusted election source.
Welcome back to the CBS News Vice Presidential Debate. It is now time for the closing statement. Senator Vance won the virtual coin toss and elected to go last. So, Governor Walz, you are first. You have 2 minutes.
Well, thank you, Senator Vance. Thank you to CBS News. And most importantly, thank you to all of you. If you're still up and the folks who miss Dancing with Our Stars, I appreciate it. But look, the support of the democracy matters. It matters that you're here. And I'm as surprised as anybody of this coalition that Kamala Harris has built, from Bernie Sanders to Dick Cheney to Taylor Swift, and a whole bunch of folks in between there. And they don't all agree on everything, but they are truly optimistic people. They believe in a positive future of this country and one where our politics can be better than it is. And I have to tell you, that better than it is the sense of optimism that there can be an opportunity economy that works for everyone. Not just
We're doing great, Mike. Thank you so much for asking.
Something. Not the freedom of government to be in your bedroom or exam room, but the freedom for you to make choices about yourself.
Yes, my work desk.
Now, look, we all know who Donald Trump is. He's told us, and as Maya Angelou said, believe him when he told you that. His first inaugural address talked about American carnage. And then he spent 4 years trying to maybe do that. Senator Vance tonight made it clear he will stand with Donald Trump's agenda. He will continue to push down that road. Excuse me. Kamala Harris gives us a different option. Now, I'll have to tell you, I'm going to be careful about the quotes, but there's one that Senator Vance said that does resonate with me. He said, Donald Trump makes the people I care about afraid. A lot of America feels that way. We don't need to be afraid. Franklin Roosevelt was right. All we have to fear is fear itself. Kamala Harris is bringing us a new way forward. She's bringing us a politics of joy. She's bringing real solutions for the middle class, and she's centering you at the heart of that. All the while asking everyone, join this movement, make your voices heard.
Join the movement.
Where everybody gets
be on the right side of history.
Gets a chance to thrive. I humbly ask for your vote on November 5th for Kamala Harris.
Governor Walz, thank you. Senator Vance, your closing statement.
Well, I want to thank Governor Walz, you folks at CBS, and of course the American people for tuning in this evening. And one of the issues we didn't talk about was energy. And I remember when I was being raised by my grandmother, when she didn't have enough money to heat some nights because Ohio gets pretty cold at night and because money was often very tight. And I believe, as a person who wants to be your next
Money
vice
gets
president,
tight for
that
him.
we are a rich and prosperous enough country where every American, whether they're rich or poor, ought to be able to turn on their heat in the middle of a cold winter night. That's gotten more difficult thanks to Kamala Harris's energy policies. I believe that whether you're rich or poor, you ought to be able to afford a nice meal for your family. That's gotten harder because of Kamala Harris's policies. I believe that whether you're rich or poor, you ought to be able to afford to buy a house. You ought to be able to
No,
live
he
in safe
doesn't.
neighborhoods. You ought to not have your communities flooded with fentanyl, and that too has gotten harder with Kamala because of Kamala Harris's policies. Now, I've been in politics long enough to do what Kamala Harris does when she stands before the American people and says that on day one, she's going to work on all these challenges I just listed. She's been the vice president for 3.5 years. Day one was 1,400 days ago, and her policies have made these problems worse. Now, I believe that we have the most beautiful country in the world. I meet people on the campaign trail who can't afford food.
Right. Don't
Have
believe
the
him.
grace and generosity to ask me how I'm doing and to tell me they're praying for my family. What that
He
has
talked
taught me
about his
is that
wife's
we
health,
have
but
the
they have
greatest country, the most
free
beautiful
health care,
country,
right?
the most incredible
Lady
people
Libra?
anywhere in the world. But they're not going to be able to achieve their full dreams with the broken leadership that we have in Washington. They're not going to be able to live their American dream if we do the same thing that we've been doing for the last 3.5 years. We need change. We need a new direction. We need a president who has already done this once before and did it well. Please vote for Donald Trump. And whether you vote for me or vote for Tim Walz, I just want to say I'm so proud to be doing this, and I'm rooting for you. God bless you and good night.
Senator Vance, thank you. And thank you both for participating in the only vice presidential debate of this election cycle. I'm Margaret Brennan.
And I'm Nora O'Donnell. And a reminder, there are just 35 days.
35 days for election day. And I want to thank everyone for being here. Thank you so much. I'll be back. Probably in about 30 minutes or 45 minutes, I will be back. And it is a video that's going to show coverage. Hang around. It's going to show January 6th, what happened January 6th, and it's going to be footage that has never been seen. What happened on January 6th. It's going to be a watch party also. So thank you all so much. Don't forget, go to vote.org. Check and make sure that you are still on the voting rolls. Please check. Even if you have your voter's card, it doesn't mean that you're still on there. They could sit up there and kick you off for whatever formality that they can make up. Okay? Just check it. Vote.org. It just takes a couple seconds. And if you're not registered to vote, register. It's a small little form. I posted here in the chat here. And I shared with you all what you could do to make a difference. And I share with people who are not voting. Hopefully we can get you to vote. Here it is where you can register to vote. And take voting serious. It's not a game. This is not a ticket that you buy to go somewhere to have fun. This is, if you're not paying attention to politics, then please pay attention for people who you love that's around you, whether it's your elder around you, your mother, your father, your grandparents, if it's kids out there. Don't be selfish. Take consideration of those lives and vote, and it doesn't take much to do that. I'll be back. Please go to my subscription. Make sure you subscribe and then click that bell. And what that does, it keeps you where you can keep updated on everything I post. And then Mike Aldana says Kamala gets slammed for policies that Biden wanted. Yes, and she's getting also, I think, if I could be fair and unbiased about what do I think about the status, I feel that Walz won, and I'll tell you why. Walz was busy talking about specifics. Tim Walz was talking about what he can do, and Tim Walz was talking about debunking the lies and proving to other people his experience. And he put out there how many years he's been working with these different policies and how they work. He was able to point out that J.D. Vance doesn't have the experience that Waltz have. So the kind of things that J.D. Vance is talking about, you can tell it's coming from inexperience, because Waltz called him out and said, no, that's not true. This is how it works. And I like how he spoke up and called him out and said that, no, it doesn't work that way, J.D. Vance. I was there. Let me tell you how it works. That was some good points. There are some good points about January the 6th. I mean, how can someone have any respect for J.D. Vance, who came out and put out there that Trump is no good and all these inflammatory things he did say about Trump, which was true. And then since he was asked to be Trump's running mate, then he comes back and he goes, you know what I'm saying? I mean, J.D. Vance is shady Vance. And the point is, how can, people rather, here's my favorite quote. Take this to the bank. I'll be back again in 45 minutes. What he said, what I say, my favorite quote, that if you believe in the lie that makes you feel comfortable versus the truth that makes you feel uncomfortable. And this is why you see so many people that believe in the lie. They believe in the lie because it makes them feel comfortable. There's no other excuse for it. It just makes them feel comfortable. It was like that too, back in the days when free people were enslaved. That people who were getting lynched, people who their children were ripped from their hands and their babies were taken from them. This is real history. That they were taught, that the opposition was taught to ignore, be passive aggressive of what's going on outside, and then train your brain. Their brains were trained to ignore the lies and the flaws and the inequalities and the unfairness. And they were trained to be passive aggressive. So to ignore what was going on, and they were trained to be supreme, entitled because of their color. Not every white person thinks like this, thank God, because guess what? Obama won 2 terms because of the white vote. We, the black vote, we, the people, we helped push them over a little bit and made it better, right? But white people voted in Obama twice. Let's don't get it twisted. We are a melting pot of beautiful people of all different complexions. I use race here to bring us together. I do not use race to divide us. So understand that we could talk about our complexions. We could talk about what we look like, if we're melanated or non-melanated or short hair or natural hair and all that beautiful stuff. We should be proud of who we are. That's a blessing. But also we should be proud of also to support people who are allies, who are supporting people who need to be supported. And we need other voices to speak up for us. And we need people out there to really put the stamp of approval that, guess what? That is not right. And we need to call them out. If we have to use our cell phone and blast the lies and post and vote, then vote. Because you have to ask yourself, if you're not voting, why? Why are you not voting? I mean, why? Because you feel somebody told you something out there? Someone told you a lie and you believe it? Or your boss got something hanging over you? Or you got somebody that you're scared of? I mean, why will you be afraid to vote? Why would you not vote when the sidewalk that you walk on is taxed? When people voted that sidewalk in and that road that you drive on, or you take a subway, or you take a bus, or you take a plane, those things are taxed. And the people who own these assets are political, and they got a lot of money, and they're not paying as much taxes as you are. So these are things that are so very important to make sure that we are cognizant of the reason why people vote and why we vote. And it's not because probably what the majority of the people or minority of the people might be saying, but it's because what I'm saying. It's what I'm saying. Create your own narrative. Create your own narrative. Find something about politics that you love. And if it's one thing, stick to that. You don't have to love everything about every tiny little thing. No one didn't tell you to go over their house and have a slumber party and do a freaking pillow fight. It ain't that type of party. But we can do something to be effective if it's just honoring people in our life, whether it's white people and black people, Hispanic people, Jews and Muslims. It's everybody in this country that has stood up for our rights from one point or another. Somewhere, somebody of a different religion, a different complexion, and different kind of hair, they stood up for us, and that most of them have died for us. They have died for us to sit our asses here and have a movie watch party. I'm just saying. And I'll see you all. Thank you so much. I love you. And I'll see you soon.